Chapter 263 Dragon's Peak. After leaving the house, Elder Xian led Yuan to the inner court to look for Fei Yuyan. The appearance of Elder Xian in the outer court surprised everyone and attracted countless gazes from the disciples around them, and they all bowed to him the moment they noticed him. As a high-ranking sect elder, they are revered as much as the sect master himself, and they usually don't appear in public, much less the outer court, so for Elder Xian, one of the most renowned high-ranking sect elder to appear in the outer court was very shocking, to say the least. Who's that inner court disciple following him? He's even wearing a mask. Why is he wearing a mask? What's he trying to hide? His ugly face? Who knows? Sometime later, Elder Xian and Yuan arrived at Fei Yuyan's living quarters and knocked on the doors. After waiting for a few moments with no response, Elder Xian knocked on the door again. However, nobody answered the door. How odd. Elder Xian retrieved his jade slip and looked at it before continuing. Disciple Fei hasn't signed out of the logbook, so she should still be within the sect. Maybe she went to the Dragon Pavilion? This content is taken from lightnov/l/pub. Do you have any idea where she went? Elder Xian decided to ask Yuan. Yuan shook his head and said, I tried to visit her a few days ago as well, but she wasn't here either. Let's go to Elder Shan's living quarters and see if Disciple Fei is there or if she knows Disciple Fei's location. Elder Xian suggested. Yuan nodded his head, and they proceeded to head to the Blossom Peak to see Elder Shan. Sometime later they knocked on Elder Shan's door. Who is it? Elder Shan appeared before them a few moments later. Elder Xian and Disciple Yuan? It took a few seconds for Elder Shan to recognize Yuan's black jade mask, and when she realized that it was Yuan, she subconsciously took a step back and covered her head with her hands. Elder Shan? What are you doing? Elder Xian raised his eyebrows when he saw her puzzling actions. Ahem. Nothing. Elder Shan cleared her throat before continuing. Anyway, what are you doing here? And why are you hiding your face, Disciple Yuan? This content is taken from lightnovel//ub. C/OM. It's a complicated situation for him, we'll discuss it later. As for now, we're looking for Disciple Fei so we can head to the Dragon's Peak. She wasn't at her house, so we figured to come here. Elder Xian said. Oh, Fei Yuyan? She's currently in closed cultivation in the Immortal Caves. Elder Shan said. Immortal Caves? What's that? Yuan immediately asked, his interest piqued. The Immortal Caves are located at Cloud Peak, where the spiritual energy is incredibly thick and abundant, only second to Dragon's Peak in the entire sect. Core disciples usually spend the most time cultivating there, especially if there's nothing else to do outside. And since the mystic realm is getting close, everybody wants to improve their cultivation as fast as possible to be eligible for the mystic realm. One must be eligible to participate in the mystic realm? How do you pick who gets to participate? Yuan asked them. Well, the mystic realm is a mysterious place where one's overall strength and cultivation doesn't matter at all. Instead, one's talent reigns supreme. Everyone who enters the mystic realm will have their entire cultivation base wiped, but you'll regain your cultivation once you come back out. Elder Xian explained to him. And he continued, therefore we pick the participants depending on their growth and improvements over a certain time. So far, you're the only disciple who is certain to participate in the mystic realm. As for the other two disciples, well, figure it out by the end of the week. Wow. A mystic place indeed. Yuan's anticipation for this place grew slightly more. Anyway, since Disciple Fei isn't here and we can't just disturb her cultivation, I guess you'll have to go to Dragon's Peak by yourself for now, Disciple Yuan. Elder Xian said to him. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Okay. Yuan nodded. Thank you, Elder Shan. We'll see you later. All right. Before I leave. Yuan suddenly reached into his spatial ring and retrieved a cultivation technique. Can you give this to Disciple Fei when she comes out of cultivation? This is... Elder Shan accepted the technique with a nonchalant look on her face. However, when she realized what she was holding, her eyes widened with surprise. The divine rank cultivation technique you'd obtained from the Zither competition? You're already done with it? Yuan nodded. Yes, I learned it quicker than I'd expected, so I don't need it anymore. Please give it to Disciple Fei. Elder Shan and Elder Xian's jaws dropped after hearing his words. Had managed to learn a divine rank technique in just a few days? As expected, his comprehension abilities are beyond their understanding. I understand. I will give this technique to Fei Yuyan when I see her. Elder Shan nodded her head. Visit li/t//novelpub.com for a better experience. Thank you, Senior Shan. Yuan said to her. Elder Xian and Yuan left the place shortly later, heading to Dragon's Peak that was almost 2 hours away. So this is the Dragon's Peak? It's so empty. Yuan stared at the spacious land before them with raised eyebrows. Well, the founder was a simple man who loved to feel free, so he didn't have much if anything in his area, said Elder Xian. I see, but the spiritual energy in this area, it's really abundant. I can feel my cultivation base slightly growing just from breathing in this place. Yuan mumbled. Rumors say this is caused by a treasure that the founder had hidden in this place before his disappearance, since this place was not like this in the beginning, and it only became like this after the founder's disappearance. Elder Xian said. And he continued, however, despite all of our efforts throughout the years, nobody has found the supposed treasure to this day, and it's been tens of thousands of years. I see. Yuan mumbled with a pondering look on his face. Chapter 264. Where is the treasure? Anyway, you can stay here for as long as you like until the mystic realm begins. Although it might be a long shot, try to break through to the spirit master realm before then. While your cultivation base may not matter in the mystic realm, it'll definitely shock a lot of people and affect their minds and performance. Elder Xian said to him. If you need anything from me, just contact me using the communication Jade slip. It'll be at the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower with the sect master and the others. Yuan nodded, and he suddenly asked, how are the guests doing? Did they manage to clear the tower yet? Elder Xian shook his head and spoke with a smile on his face. No, but one of them managed to reach the 100th floor. You didn't tell me about the dragon. I forgot. I'm sorry. Yuan said. Don't worry about it. It was a pleasant surprise. We won't blame you for it. Elder Xian laughed out loud. Sometime later, Elder Xian left the place, leaving Yuan alone at Dragon's Peak. What am I supposed to do here? Just sit down and cultivate? Yuan mumbled to himself since Elder Xian didn't exactly give him any instructions. By the way, Xiaohua, can you see the treasure in this place with your divine sense? I couldn't sense anything. Yuan suddenly asked her. No, Xiaohua cannot sense anything either. The people in this place should have already swept this entire place with their divine sense, anyway, so either there's no treasure in this place or it cannot be found through normal means. Follow current novels on lightnov/lpub//com through normal means? How else can we locate a treasure besides our divine sense? Yuan asked. There are treasures that can locate other treasures. There are also magical beasts with special senses that allow them to pick up treasure. There are even powerful arrays that can pinpoint treasures as long as it's within the array. There are many methods one can use to locate treasures. However, unless they're incredibly incompetent, the people of this sect should have already tried all of these methods throughout the years. If that's the case, perhaps there really is no treasure in this place, and this abundant spiritual energy is merely a natural phenomenon. Yuan said. No, there's definitely a treasure in this place. Xiaohua suddenly said. Xiaohua just analyzed the flow of the spiritual energy in this place, and it's not natural. Something here is attracting the spiritual energy to this place. Really? Then can you pinpoint what is causing this phenomenon? No, Xiaohua cannot find anything no matter how much she tries. Maybe one requires a special technique or treasure to find the treasure. Xiaohua said. Special technique? Yuan raised his eyebrows as though had realized something. What if it's a treasure that can only be seen with the dragon's gaze? After all, the founder also knew of this technique. Yuan thought to himself. With that in mind, Yuan activated the dragon's gaze and proceeded to look around. However, he found nothing out of the ordinary. Updated from lightnovelp/ub.com. Nothing? Maybe it's in a different area since this place seems very big. Thus, Yuan proceeded to walk around the Dragon's Peak as though he was taking a stroll while his eyes glowed gold and emitted an ancient aura. Nothing here. Nothing out of the ordinary here either. Yuan spent the next 2 hours walking around the peak, but alas, he couldn't find the treasure. Perhaps there is really no treasure in this place? But Xiaohua said there's definitely something manipulating the flow of spiritual energy in this place, hence the abundance of spiritual energy. After pondering for a moment, Yuan wondered if he needed to activate divine sense as well as dragon's gaze, so he proceeded to walk around the dragon's peak for the second time, but this time, he had both dragon's gaze and divine sense activated. Still nothing? Yuan was truly puzzled now. The dragon's peak was spacious but also very empty, so there are very few places one can hide a treasure. Visit lig/tna//lpub.com for a better experience. The treasure could be hidden underground, But not even Xiaohua could find the treasure with her divine sense that's powered by the cultivation of a spirit king, so that was unlikely. If it's not hidden on the surface or underground, there's only one more place. Yuan slowly tilted his head until he was staring at the sky. However, there was nothing there. After taking a deep breath, Yuan activated the dragon's gaze again. This is... Yuan subconsciously took a few steps back with a shocked look on his face when he saw the thing flying above the dragon's peak. What's the matter, brother Yuan? Xiaohua asked him since she couldn't see anything in the sky. Yuan pointed at the sky with his entire arm trembling and he said, There. There is a huge glowing dragon flying in the sky. New novel chapters are published on lightno/velpu/b/. C/om what? Xiaohua cannot see anything in the sky, she quickly said. I'm not lying. It's really there. It's circling around the area like a guardian of some sorts. Yuan hastily said. No matter how hard she tried to look, Xiaohua couldn't see the dragon Yuan was talking about. Can you describe it, brother Yuan? She then asked. It's at least 200 meters in length and it doesn't appear to have a physical body, only a golden outline. It resembles the great one I saw on the 100th floor in the tower. Yuan described the dragon to the best of his abilities. That sounds like... Just as Xiaohua opened her mouth to speak, Yuan suddenly said in a surprised voice. Oh, it just noticed me, and it's looking directly at me. Yuan looked at the golden dragon in the sky that was also staring back at him with a profound gaze. Follow current novels on lightnov/lpub. After a few moments of silence and stillness, suddenly, the dragon began moving. Yuan's eyes widened with shock when he saw the dragon start to fly at him like a meteor, immediately sending chills down his spine. Chapter 265 Dragon Essence. Seeing the golden dragon flying at him, Yuan subconsciously retrieved his Empyrean overlord and took a defensive stance as it felt like an extremely powerful and violent beast was rushing at him at this moment. Brother Yuan? Xiaohua was puzzled by Yuan's sudden alertness and called out to him. But alas, Yuan was too focused on the dragon to hear Xiaohua's voice. Whoosh! The dragon slithered through the air in a smooth movement before head-butting Yuan. Yuan held the Empyrean overlord in front of his body to block the attack, but to his surprise, as though it was a ghost, the dragon went directly through his sword and straight into his body. Ah! Yuan shouted in a surprised voice when the dragon suddenly invaded his body. What happened, brother Yuan? Xiaohua left the necklace and asked him. The golden dragon went inside my body. He quickly said. Brother Yuan, Xiaohua believes that the dragon is... The most up-to-date novels are published on li/novel/pub/com. Right as Xiaohua spoke, a notification appeared before him. Ding. Heaven refining physique activated. Minor dragon essence has been refined, soul strength plus 10,000. Your divine sense has reached a new level. Divine sense mastery level 1, 2. Dragon essence, so it's not harmful to your body. In fact, it will even benefit you greatly. Xiaohua said. Dragon essence? What is that? I just gained a lot of stats from absorbing the minor dragon essence. Yuan said. This content is taken from lighten//ovalpub.com. What? Brother Yuan already absorbed the dragon essence. Xiaohua looked at him with a gawking expression on her small face. Unlike monster cores, monster essences are very unique in the way they are created and absorbed. When a magical beast dies, its dantian will form into a monster core that allows cultivators to absorb some of its spiritual energy. However, when it comes to essences, they can be created without needing the magical beast's death. With that being said, only powerful magical beasts have the ability to create essences, mostly divine beasts like the Great One, and even then it requires a lot of energy and time to form its own essence. As for why magical beasts would waste their time and effort on creating essences, it's sort of training for them, like how Yuan trains his divine sense, as it strengthens their control over their own spiritual energy as well as their soul and mental strength. Brother Yuan, even though it's only a minor essence, it normally takes months if not years for an individual to fully absorb it, yet you manage to absorb it so quickly, almost instantaneously. It's almost as shocking as your eating habits. Xiaohua said to him with her eyes wide as saucers. Does absorbing monster essences not give you qi like monster cores do? Yuan asked her since he didn't get any qi from absorbing the dragon essence. Essences are unique in the way that different essences will have different effects. Some essence can give you qi while others will grant you other benefits such as increased physical strength or mental strength. Xiaohua explained to him. I see, and the dragon essence happened to give me soul strength. Yuan mumbled. What? Xiaohua suddenly shouted in a shocked voice. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Com, a soul strength? The dragon essence gave Brother Yuan soul strength? Is this true? Xiaohua asked him in a somewhat nervous manner. Why yes. Yuan nodded, startled by her reaction. That's incredibly lucky, Brother Yuan. Out of everything one can obtain from essences, soul strength is the rarest and most sought-after essence by even top cultivators since it directly improves your soul strength without needing any soul techniques or training. Xiaohua said to him in an excited voice, her body slightly shaking from excitement as though she was the one who received the benefit. Either the founder of this place is incredibly generous to leave behind the dragon essence or he wasn't the one who put the dragon essence here. Yuan nodded and continued to ask, by the way, it's only a minor dragon essence. Does this mean there are even higher qualities of essences? Xiaohua nodded and said, that's right. There are minor essences, major essences, and divine essences. I see. Yuan mumbled and he continued, what about methods one can use to find essences? This dragon essence was hidden in plain sight yet nobody managed to find it despite thousands of years. However, Xiaohua shook her head and said, just like how each essence has different effects, they also have different properties. Therefore there is no single method to look for essences. They're all incredibly rare and can only be found by chance or fate. As for Brother Yuan, since only you managed to find it despite it being in plain sight for so many years, one can say the dragon essence was fated to be found by you. In other words, it's fate. Visit L/It Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. Fate, ha. Yuan suddenly recalled his meeting with Senior Bai and their talk about destiny and fate. Perhaps he was destined for this fortunate encounter. Suddenly, another phenomenon occurred in the place, as all of the spiritual energy gathered at Dragon's Peak began dispersing in every direction. What's going on? Yuan looked at the change with wide eyes. Xiaohua responded in a calm voice, the dragon essence was what attracted the spiritual energy to this area. Now that it's gone since Brother Yuan absorbed it, there is no longer anything attracting the spiritual energy so it's only natural they are leaving. Soon, this place will return to being a normal place without its abundance in spiritual energy. I see, Xiaohua then continued, Brother Yuan, you should take this opportunity to cultivate and absorb as much spiritual energy as you can since it'll take some time before the spiritual energy in this place returns to normal. Yuan nodded and immediately sat down and began reciting his cultivation technique. Whoosh. The spiritual energy that was dispersing suddenly stopped leaving and began approaching Yuan as though they were attracted to him, quickly creating a small tornado around him. However, Yuan could only feel a gentle and comfortable breeze around him. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meanwhile, his cultivation base began to soar closer and closer to Spirit Master. Chapter 266 9 Dragon Symbols? Ding. Due to your title Pang City's hero, cultivation speed has increased by 10%. Ding. Due to your untainted body, cultivation speed has increased by 100%. Ding. Environmental effect has increased your cultivation speed by 500%. Plus 3,852 chi, plus 3,946 chi, plus 3,750 chi, plus 3,656 chi. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light/NOV/LPub. Due to his title and untainted body, Yuan's cultivation speed more than doubled, not to mention the Dragon's Peak that was abundant with spiritual energy. Yuan absorbed over 3,000 chi every second, and in just a minute had absorbed over 200,000 chi. Meanwhile, Xiaohua sat in front of Yuan and watched him cultivate in silence. What a crazy cultivation speed for someone at the Spirit Warrior realm. He's absorbing the spiritual energy like he's eating food, almost like an unstoppable monster. Xiaohua thought to herself as she stared at Yuan's peaceful face with admiration on her face. At this rate, Brother Yuan will absorb enough spiritual energy to break through to Spirit Master in a month. And even though Brother Yuan won't become a Spirit Master in time for the Mystic Realm, it's already an incredible feat, especially since we're still in the lower heavens where the quality of qi isn't as good. After an hour of cultivation, unbeknownst to Yuan or Xiaohua, inside Yuan's body, the dragon essence had absorbed just finished merging with the golden symbols engraved in his bones, causing them to change slightly before emitting a bright and golden glow. Whoosh! The spiritual energy in the area suddenly grew restless, and they began rushing toward Yuan's body as though Yuan's body had become a black hole with intense suction. What's going on? Xiaohua mumbled in a dazed voice when she noticed this sudden change, and it was unlike anything she has ever seen before. Ding. Updated from / light novel pub / com, 9 dragon symbols has been activated. 9 dragon symbols have reached level 1. Due to the 9 dragon symbols, your cultivation speed have increased by 1,000%. Yuan's cultivation speed suddenly increased by a whopping 1000%, shocking and puzzling Yuan at the same time, as he had no idea what this 9 dragon symbols was or how had obtained it. However, he didn't think about it too much for now and decided to focus on cultivating, as he was worried that if head stopped, this sudden boost would disappear as well. +8 411 Qi, +8 301 Qi, +8 569 Qi. His Qi gathering speed per second immediately doubled, allowing him to absorb over 8,000 Qi every single second, and in just an hour, Yuan had managed to absorb almost 30 million Qi. Visit /li/novelpub/ .com for the best novel reading experience. Xiaohua watched Yuan cultivate with her mouth wide open and jaw dropped. What caused this sudden and explosive increase in cultivation speed? Does it have anything to do with the dragon essence? However, she has never heard of essences having such a unique ability after being absorbed. After all, even though the dragon essence had the ability to gather spiritual energy at Dragon's Peak, such an ability shouldn't have transferred to Yuan after he absorbed it. Otherwise, it would be too powerful, and the heavens would never allow such a flaw to exist. Wait a second. Brother Yuan also managed to obtain a magical beast's ability after he consumed its monster core. Maybe he can also do the same with their essence? But that would be too. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Yuan's unbelievable existence. Whenever it feels like she has witnessed all there is to Yuan's talents, he would suddenly show even more talents like some sort of magic show. But instead of taking out a rabbit from his hat, Yuan takes out unbelievable talents that would leave anyone filled with jealousy if they knew about it. After another 6 hours of cultivation, Yuan decided to finally stop cultivating as it was getting late. Xiaohua, you were sitting there this entire time? Yuan finally noticed Xiaohua sitting in front of him when he opened his eyes. Yes. Xiaohua nodded with a dazed look on her face. I made some really good progress today, Yuan said with a smile on his face, and then he asked, by the way, do you know anything about the 9 dragon symbols? 9 dragon symbols? Xiaohua has never heard of that before. Is that a treasure? She asked with a tilted head. I don't know, but I think that is what's causing the explosive increase in my cultivation speed. Follow current novels on li/tn/ovalpub/com 9 dragon symbols. Perhaps the phoenix will know something. Xiaohua then said. Yuan nodded. He'll ask her when she comes back. A few moments later, Xiaohua entered the necklace before Yuan logged off the game. Once Meixiu returned, she immediately went to cook dinner as usual before feeding Yuan. After feeding Yuan, Meixiu went to take a quick shower before retiring for the day inside her room. Let's see if his friend has arrived yet. Meixiu wore the helmet and immediately went inside Cultivation Online. Once she was inside the game, Meixiu looked around the place and she immediately noticed a small commotion right outside the city gates. Meixiu narrowed her eyes at the crowd of people that appeared to be surrounding an individual, a very beautiful young woman wearing tight red robes and a very mature body. This content is taken from lightnov/lpub/com, that must be her. Meixiu mumbled to herself before she approached her. Excuse me. Meixiu tried to push her way to the young woman in the red dress, but alas, the crowd was too strong for her to do anything. Get out of my way. A clear voice suddenly resounded loudly. The place immediately turned silent, and a path quickly appeared in the crowd. A few moments later, the young woman in the seductive red clothes walked out of the crowd and stopped in front of Meixiu. A naturally bored face and someone who doesn't understand fun. You fit the description the young master gave me. Are you the young master's friend? Feng Yuxiang asked Meixiu. By young master, do you mean Yuan? Meixiu asked. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, looks like I have found the right person. Come with me, I'll bring you to the eastern continent so you can meet with the young master. Author's note. For those confused about the numbers, it's cultivation speed x base Qi absorption rate. Yuan's cultivation technique absorbs around 500 Qi per second, and it's 610% and 1610% of that 500, not 1000% of 3000. The source of this content is lightno/v//lpub.com. Chapter 267, A New Experience. After meeting with Meixiu, Feng Yuxiang hugged Meixiu's waist and flew towards the heavens as she did with Yu Rou, and they proceeded to make their way towards the eastern continent. This is Meixiu was shocked when Feng Yuxiang suddenly brought her into the air, and when she looked down, her body began trembling non-stop uncontrollably. Chen, are you scared of heights? Feng Yuxiang asked Meixiu when she noticed her shaking. Meixiu was speechless. Since she has never flown in a plane or went to any tall places before, she was never aware of her acrophobia. In other words, she was scared of heights. Don't worry, I won't accidentally drop you or anything. You can close your eyes too. Feng Yuxiang suggested this to her. Meixiu immediately closed her eyes, but the image of the distant ground still lingered inside her mind. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, what's your relationship with the young master? I know you're friends, but I want to know more about you and the young master. Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked her. A friend, huh? Is that what Yuan said? A slight smile appeared on Meixiu's face. Him? You're not friends? Then what are you to him? Follow current novels on lee/gitnovelp/up/com. I'm more of his caretaker, a servant so to speak, Meixiu said. Oh, you're his servant as well? Feng Yuxiang said in a surprised tone. I'm also the young master's servant. Meixiu opened her eyes again to look at Feng Yuxiang with wide eyes filled with surprise. How could someone like her be a servant? She looks like a powerful madam from an influential family more than anything. What's with that look? You don't believe me? Feng Yuxiang raised her eyebrows at Meixiu's doubtful gaze. Yuan? He called you a phoenix? Are you really a phoenix? Meixiu suddenly asked. That's right. I'm a phoenix, but I have my powers sealed right now so I cannot show you. Feng Yuxiang nodded. Is that so? The two of them became silent afterward, and it remained that way for a couple of minutes until Feng Yuxiang suddenly said, well, take the teleportation device that's at the city of Liyang, which is about 4 hours away. 4 hours? Meixiu was slightly surprised. Visit light//no/velpub.com for the best novel reading experience. How long do you think it'll take us to reach the eastern continent and meet up with Yuan? Do you think we'll make it before sunrise? While Meixiu didn't mind losing sleep for a single night, she couldn't neglect Yuan's breakfast no matter what. By sunrise, huh? It's definitely doable, but I don't know if you'll be able to handle the speed since you're immortal. Feng Yuxiang said to her. I will be fine, said Meixiu. If you say so. Feng Yuxiang nodded and she immediately raised her flying speed, nearly doubling it. Meixiu could feel her chest tightening from the speed increase. Even though Feng Yuxiang shielded Meixiu from most of the wind pressure with her spiritual energy, it was still very powerful for a mortal who hasn't even started cultivating yet. Meanwhile, inside his own room, Yuan tried to activate his divine sense again. Monster cores don't affect my real-life cultivation when I consume them inside the game, but monster essences might be a different case. Hopefully, the dragon essence will finally enable me to use my divine sense in this world as well. The source of this content is lightno/v/lpub.com. With that in mind, Yuan took a deep breath and tried to activate his divine sense. Yuan could feel his spiritual energy reacting to his attempt, but in the end he was still unable to activate his divine sense. I still can't activate my divine sense, however, there was a response at least. It shouldn't be long before I can actually use my divine sense. Maybe if I raise a couple more levels. Even though Yuan couldn't activate his divine sense yet, he was feeling more motivated and hopeful than ever. Thus, Yuan began cultivating. However, immediately after he began cultivating, Yuan noticed something different about his cultivation speed. It suddenly increased again. The source of this content is lig/tno/velpub.com. While it isn't as explosive as his cultivation improvements in Cultivation Online, it was still a pretty big difference compared to the last time had cultivated, and his cultivation quickly moved towards 5th level Spirit Warrior. 2 hours have passed since Feng Yuxiang and Meixiu met, and they just arrived at the city of Liyang, arriving 2 hours earlier than anticipated. Feng Yuxiang landed directly in front of the city's entrance, shocking the guards there. Seniors. Everybody there bowed to Feng Yuxiang when they landed, startling Meixiu, who knew nothing about cultivators and their culture. It was a new experience for her. How may we help you, esteemed seniors? The guards in front of them said before bowing to them again. We're here to use the teleportation device, said Feng Yuxiang. I understand. Please follow us. The guard proceeded to lead Feng Yuxiang and Meixiu into the city and towards the teleportation device. This content is taken from /lightnovelpub.com. On the way, Meixiu looked around the scenery and the people there with a somewhat intrigued gaze. Since she rarely leaves the house and only goes out to go to school with Yu Rou, Meixiu doesn't have much experience in the outside world. You're somewhat different from what the young master described. Feng Yuxiang suddenly said to her. Me? What did he say about me? Meixiu asked her with a curious look. Feng Yuxiang smiled and said, the young master said it's hard for you to find entertainment in things, almost like you're always bored. I see. To Feng Yuxiang's surprise, a somewhat sweet smile appeared on Meixiu's face. Sometime later they arrived at the teleportation device. Where would you like to go, esteemed seniors? The guard guiding them asked. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Com, the Eastern Continent. Feng Yuxiang immediately responded. The Eastern Continent. That's a little bit far. A perplexed expression appeared on the guard's face. Seeing the guard's face, Feng Yuxiang continued, don't worry, we're not going to use the teleportation device for free. They'll pay for it. The guard's expression immediately relaxed after hearing Feng Yuxiang's words, and he quickly nodded, I understand. Please follow me to the front. Chapter 268 Nothing is impossible in the cultivation world. Excuse me. Coming through. The guard forcefully led Feng Yuxiang and Meixiu through the crowd that was waiting in line for their turn at the teleportation device. This caused the people already in line to frown, especially since most of them were from somewhat big families, and this was a slap in the face to them since they had to stand in line like everybody else. Hey, what gives? How come they get to skip the line while the rest of us stand here? What's so special about them? Someone in the line suddenly shouted out loud in a frustrated voice, calling them out. That's right. Do you know who I am? Il complained to the mayor. The guard quickly turned around and responded to that person in a sarcastic voice. Well, if you have the ability to fly, I will also allow you to skip the line. How does that sound? Fly. The people there raised their eyebrows in a puzzled manner. Do you have a problem with us going first? Feng Yuxiang suddenly turned around and spoke, even releasing a little bit of her spirit Grandmaster cultivation base. Follow current novels on lig////novelpub. Com, a spirit Grandmaster. The people there were immensely shocked by Feng Yuxiang's cultivation base. Just where on earth did this spirit Grandmaster come from? And how come they don't recognize her? Please forgive us, Senior Grandmaster. The people there quickly lowered their heads and apologized to Feng Yuxiang. Feng Yuxiang didn't say anything else and continued to approach the teleportation device with Meixiu following behind her. How overbearing. Meixiu thought to herself, yet she found it somewhat admirable. A few moments later they arrived in front of the teleportation device. Esteemed seniors, because the Eastern Continent is very far away, we can only teleport you to 3 places. Are you fine with that? The person managing the teleportation device asked them. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, teleport us to the one closest to the Dragon Essence Temple. Visit light/novelpub/ see ///om for a better experience, the Dragon Essence Temple, right? Give me a moment to look at the map. The worker proceeded to look at the large map that was pinned to a portable board nearby. It had the location of every city in the lower heavens with a teleportation device. That would be the Iron Lotus City, which is approximately 290,000 miles from our current location. As for the price, it will be 3,400,000 gold, esteemed seniors. 3,400,000 gold. Meixiu was inwardly shocked when she heard the astronomical amount of gold needed to use the teleportation device. Yu Rou had told her about the exchange rates for gold and real-life money, and it was about 1 gold for every $7. In this case, 3,400,000 gold was worth at least $23,800,000. This amount of money is more than enough to feed an entire family luxuriously for their entire life, and they're going to spend all of it on transportation? Not even the richest family in their world would dare to spend so lavishly. Just how on earth did Yuan make someone like her into his servant? Meixiu couldn't help but become curious. Harry's 2,500 spirit stones. Keep the change. Feng Yuxiang handed a storage pouch to the worker in a nonchalant manner, acting as though she was only buying some cheap food. Thank you very much, esteemed senior. Please give me a moment to prepare the teleportation device for you. Visit lighten///ovalpub. Com for a better experience. The worker accepted the storage pouch with excitement before counting the spirit stones inside. Once he confirmed the payment, the worker went to set the settings on the teleportation device so it would teleport them to their desired location. A few minutes later, the worker returned to them and said, the teleportation device is ready. Just let me know when and I'll activate it. Once activated, You have 60 seconds to enter the teleportation device before it loses power. Feng Yuxiang turned to look at Meixiu and asked her, "Are you ready?" Meixiu nodded. "Let's go then." The two of them stood before the teleportation device a few moments later, and once the worker activated the device, they walked into the portal. Meixiu felt a little dizzy after entering the teleportation device, and the feeling lingered for some time even after the teleportation was finished. "Are you okay?" Feng Yuxiang asked her. For more, visit lig/htn//ovalpub.com. Yes. Just a little dizzy. I'm surprised you didn't throw up since mortals can't handle much spiritual energy, and you just walked through a portal created from a large amount of spiritual energy. Feng Yuxiang said to her. And she continued, "You must have a strong soul strength. Makes me wonder why you're not a cultivator. You might have the talent for it." I have no reason to become a cultivator, Meixiu said. After all, she only joined the game so she could help Yuan out. No reason? There are plenty of reasons for one to become a cultivator. Wealth, fame, status, power. Do you not have desires? Feng Yuxiang asked her. My desire. A certain thought appeared in her mind. I do have one, but becoming a cultivator won't help me realize that dream. It's impossible. Meixiu shook her head. Impossible? Nothing is impossible in the cultivation world. At least this is what I learned after following the young master for a short time. New novel chapters are published on /li/tno/velpub.com. Yuan? Meixiu raised her eyebrows. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, That's right. The young master is an incredible existence with a limitless future. I have only been with him for a few weeks and I can only imagine how strong he'll grow in the future. Anyways, we can continue this conversation later. Are you still dizzy? We won't make it to the Dragon Essence Temple by sunrise if we linger around for too long. Feng Yuxiang said to her. I'm okay. We can continue. Meixiu nodded. Okay. The two of them returned to the air shortly later, and Feng Yuxiang continued chatting with Meixiu like they were already friends while they soared in the clouds. Perhaps it was due to their similar background as Yuan's servant, but Feng Yuxiang found Meixiu to be an interesting individual who was very different from the average person. Chapter 269. We should play together? What? Right as the sun began rising at the horizon in the real world, a refreshing sensation surged from Yuan's body as he made a breakthrough and reached 5th level Spirit Warrior. After the breakthrough, Yuan stopped cultivating and tried to activate his divine sense again. A few moments later he stopped and thought to himself, I still can't activate my divine sense, but I can feel its progress. Just a little more. Meanwhile, inside the game, Feng Yuxiang said to Meixiu after flying for many hours without rest, I can see the Dragon Essence Temple. We've arrived. Meixiu, who was just asleep, slowly opened her eyes to see the Dragon Essence Temple in the distance. This is a sect? It looks no different than a city, she mumbled. Most sects are a city itself, but unlike normal cities, only its disciples or approved guests are allowed inside. Furthermore, there are no businesses and sections. While there may be a few, it's all set up by the sect and not for profit. Feng Yuxiang explained to her. Anyways, it's sunrise. Let's get you to the young master's living quarters. This content is taken from live//tno/velpub.com. Feng Yuxiang then silently flew towards the Dragon Essence Temple before landing in the backyard of Yuan's living quarters a few minutes later since she didn't have the keys to the house. Once they landed, Meixiu said to Feng Yuxiang, Thank you for bringing me here, Senior Feng. I have to leave now. Feng Yuxiang nodded, I was just doing my job. Anyways, you can call me Feng like the young master. Meixiu logged off the game shortly later whilst Feng Yuxiang relaxed in the backyard to wait for Yuan to return. After logging off the game, Meixiu removed the helmet from her head and sat on the bed with a somewhat dazed look on her face. What an experience. It really felt like I was living in another world just now. Meixiu mumbled to herself, and she finally understood why the hype and popularity for this game existed, as it was completely justified. After sitting there for a few moments, Meixiu stood up and went to prepare breakfast for Yuan, and to her surprise, she didn't feel any fatigue or sleepy like she'd expected after staying inside the game for the entire night. While the soup cooked, Meixiu went to wash her face, brush her teeth and prepare for school. Once breakfast was prepared, Meixiu knocked on Yuan's room and said, It's time for breakfast. Visit Light Novel Pub. C/OM for the best novel reading experience. I'm awake. Yuan's voice resounded. Meixiu opened the door and pushed the mini cart inside his room. I met with Feng last night, and she took me from the western continent to the eastern continent, even arriving at your living quarters right before I logged off, Meixiu said as she fed Yuan breakfast. Oh, already? That was quicker than I'd expected. How did it go? Did you enjoy it? Yuan asked her. After a moment of silence, Meixiu said, yes, I enjoyed it. It was a unique and mythical experience. Meeting Feng Feng, learning about cultivators and the cultivation world, using the teleportation device, and the most shocking experience of all, flying in the sky. As long as you had fun. I know you only intend on playing the game so you can help me sell items and gold, but you should really consider playing with me. We can travel the cultivation world and experience everything together. Meixiu's eyes widened when she heard Yuan's unexpected words, which left her speechless for a good moment. What do you think, Meixiu? You're always working even as a child. In fact, I think we're very similar in the sense that we're always working for the same place. If it weren't for my sudden condition, I'm pretty sure that I would still be working for the Yu family even right now. This may sound crazy, but I no longer see my condition as a curse. Perhaps it is even a blessing in disguise. Follow current novels on l/i/g/tnov/lpub. Telling me to play with you. Is that a command? Meixiu suddenly asked him. Of course not. It's a request, Meixiu. If you don't want to play with me, that's fine. However, from your words just now, I could tell that you really enjoyed your time in Cultivation Online. If that's the case, you might as well continue playing. You might even find another purpose in life besides working as I did. Are you really fine with me being by your side in Cultivation Online as well? Meixiu asked again, her voice sounding somewhat nervous. Why did you make it sound like I can't stand your presence? Even though we've always been near each other for almost our entire lives, I've never once had such thoughts, and we've never really played together before. This is a great opportunity to do so. But I don't really have the time. Meixiu sighed. It's fine. We can play together whenever you're free or don't have school on the weekends. I also don't mind missing a meal once in a while so we can play more. Yuan said with a smile on his face. After a moment of silence, Meixiu said, okay, I understand. They'll play with you. That's great. After breakfast, Meixiu went to school with Yu Rou whilst Yuan continued his training inside Cultivation Online. Follow current novels on /l/i/tno/velpub. Alright. I should go meet with Feng Feng first since she's probably waiting for me. Right as Yuan thought about returning to his living quarters to meet up with Feng Yuxiang, a trail of flames could be seen traveling in the sky like a shooting star, flying toward Yuan's location. And for some reason, Yuan immediately recognized this flame. Feng Feng. A few moments later, Feng Yuxiang entered Yuan's body. I'm back, young master, she said to him afterward. Welcome back, Feng Feng. And thank you for your hard work. I'll let you drink some of my blood later. Yuan said to her. Really? Thank you, young master. Feng Yuxiang's excited voice quickly resounded, as it has been some time since she tasted his delicious blood. Chapter 273 Years Old. After Feng Yuxiang returned to his body, Yuan sat down on the soft ground and began his cultivation. The still atmosphere suddenly changed when Yuan started to absorb the spiritual energy in the air, and a small tornado appeared around him once again. +8, 174 Qi, +8, 412 Qi, +8, 059 Qi. Feng Yuxiang was greatly shocked when she saw this, as she had just returned and didn't know about the dragon essence. What's happening? Did the young master consume a treasure that increased his cultivation speed? Feng Yuxiang decided to ask Xiaohua using her spiritual sense. Brother Yuan absorbed a minor dragon essence, which gave him not only increased soul strength but also cultivation speed. I think. Xiaohua responded to her. What? Dragon essence. Soul strength. That's the rarest property one can obtain from essences. How lucky. Feng Yuxiang grew even more shocked after hearing this. Wait, cultivation speed? I have never heard of essences giving such an effect before, she suddenly realized. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. You may not know this, but Brother Yuan not only has the ability to consume monster cores. He can even obtain their abilities after consuming them. Perhaps it also applies to essences. What? That's impose. Feng Yuxiang wanted to say that such a thing couldn't be possible, but after recalling Yuan's unfathomable talents and his legendary physique, she decided to not continue that sentence. After a moment of silence, Xiaohua suddenly spoke. Phoenix, you're a divine beast as well, right? Why don't you create some phoenix essence for Brother Yuan? You make it sound like it's easy making essence. Feng Yuxiang responded in a sighing voice. I also have my powers sealed, so I cannot do that in a reasonable amount of time. Perhaps once the curse is lifted, I will be able to create some phoenix essence for the young master, but in my current condition that's impossible. Yuan cultivated in silence, not moving from that spot for 10 hours straight. At the end of the day had obtained a little over 300 million qi. In just 2 days Yuan had managed to accumulate around 500 million qi, which is enough qi for someone at first level spirit apprentice to enter 4th level spirit warrior. After he stopped cultivating, Yuan logged off the game to wait for Meixiu to return from school. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Sometime later Meixiu returned home, cooked dinner and began feeding Yuan. Yuan, can I ask you why you decided to use this name? Meixiu suddenly asked him. After a moment of silence Yuan said, that was my name before I was adopted. Meixiu's eyes widened slightly from surprise. Now that she thought about it, she didn't know anything about Yuan's life before he was adopted into the Yu family. As you already know, I was adopted into the Yu family when I was just 3 years old. Yu Rou was still a baby at that time, so she doesn't know about it. I don't know my real parents, and when I was in the orphanage, everyone would call me Yuan. I see. Do you know why I was adopted into the Yu family in the first place? Yuan suddenly asked her. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience, I do not. Meixiu said. Someone had posted to the internet a video of a 3-year-old playing a piano, which immediately became an internet sensation. Of course, that kid was me, and when the Yu family saw that video, they decided to adopt me and train me so I can play for the family. At least that's why I think I was adopted. Otherwise, I cannot imagine the Yu family adopting me for any other reason. Meixiu was speechless after learning this for the first time. So the Yu family adopted Yuan merely for his musical talents? Of course, this made sense and wasn't too shocking considering how the Yu family treated him after Yuan could no longer play the instruments. I'm sorry. Meixiu suddenly apologized to him. Why are you apologizing to me? You're not the one at fault here. Yuan chuckled. I know, but I am also part of the Yu family. Meixiu sighed. Once dinner was finished, Meixiu went to do her necessities before going to sleep. Even though I missed sleep last night, I didn't feel tired or sleepy at all during school today. How weird. Meixiu thought to herself, although she was trained to do her job even with very little to no sleep, it was odd for her to feel no fatigue despite lacking sleep. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. The following day Yuan returned to Cultivation online and proceeded to spend another 10 hours cultivating, bringing the total of qi absorbed to 800 million. I am still about 2 billion qi away from Spirit Master. I might now make it to Spirit Master before the Mystic Realm even with my increased cultivation speed. Yuan thought to himself. 3 days later, Yuan absorbed another 900 million qi accumulated 1.7 billion qi. Meanwhile, at Carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower, the gamble between Long Yijuan and the other sect master has finally come to an end. Ah! Long Yijuan exploded with laughter as the last disciple walked out of the tower with a defeated look on his face. The result's obvious. Looks like none of your disciples were able to defeat all 100 floors. I win this bet. Now hand over your treasures. Long Yijuan said to the fuming sect masters with a wide smug on his face. This isn't the end, Sect Master Long. We'll be back after the Mystic Realm. The sect masters there said to him as they reluctantly retrieved their divine-grade treasures and handed them to Long Yijuan in front of the spectators, shocking them greatly. Heavens! I thought this entire event was just for show. To think there was so much on the line. The disciples watched with salivating mouths as Long Yijuan held 4 divine-grade treasures at once. We're leaving. The other sect masters didn't dare to stay any longer and said to their disciples. Updated from Light Novel Pub. You're leaving already? Don't you want to stay behind a little longer? Perhaps we can sit down for a drink or something. Long Yijuan said to them in a sarcastic voice. The sect masters pretended they couldn't hear him and disappeared from the Dragon Essence Temple without looking back. Chapter 271 Last 2 spots. After the sect masters and their disciples left, Long Yijuan returned to his headquarters with the other high-ranking sect elders. Ah! What a bunch of idiots. They really thought they were going to defeat the tower. Long Yijuan laughed merrily as he looked at the 4 divine-grade treasures in his grasp. Sect Master, what should we do now? While it's great that we've obtained these divine-grade treasures, I highly doubt the other sects will just let us keep them. Elder Shen suddenly asked. And he continued, they'll definitely come back for them. Long Yijuan stopped laughing after hearing Elder Xian's words and nodded with a serious look on his face. I am well aware of that. We also have no need for these divine-grade treasures, so I intend on selling it back to them. How much do you intend on selling it for? Elder Bai suddenly asked. Long Yijuan showed a malicious grin and said, the full price, of course. The sect elders were startled, but they were not shocked by Long Yijuan's response. A divine-grade treasure is not something one can just buy even if they have enough money, at least not in the lower heavens where it's extremely scarce, especially when they are powerful treasures that have been passed down for generations. If the Dragon Essence Temple had lost their dragon-slaying saber despite their wealth, they would have needed to sacrifice a few decades of resources at the very least to purchase it back from the other sections. That's how ridiculously priceless these divine-grade treasures were. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. However, unless the other sects are willing to wage war against the Dragon Essence Temple to get their treasures back, they could only grit their teeth and pay the Dragon Essence Temple every coin for their treasures back. By the way, how's Disciple Yuan? Is he currently training at Dragon's Peak? Long Yijuan suddenly asked Elder Xian. Yes, I took him there the same day you asked me. However, Disciple Fei is currently in closed cultivation, so she will have to enter the Dragon's Peak at another time, said Elder Xian. Long Yijuan nodded and said, that's fine. With the Mystic Realm right around the corner, the most important thing right now is making sure Disciple Yuan is prepared. Although we don't know what will happen in the Mystic Realm this year, it's definitely not going to be easy even with Disciple Yuan assisting us. Therefore we need to make sure he has everything he needs. By the way, Sect Master, it appears that there are many people looking for Disciple Yuan. It's also why we've been bombarded with visitors lately. Apparently, they are here for Disciple Yuan, and Disciple Yuan doesn't want to be found by them. At least that's what I think. What? Who are these people looking for Disciple Yuan? And what do they want from him? Long Yijuan immediately frowned. We only know that these people are mostly rogue cultivators without any backgrounds. The sect elders have questioned a few of them, and these rogue cultivators all say the same thing. I just want to speak with Player Yuan, said Elder Xian. Player Yuan? Is that Disciple Yuan's title or something? Long Yijuan raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub? And then he said, anyways, regardless of their reason, if Disciple Yuan doesn't want to be bothered by these people, we will assist him. Tighten up the security. Nobody is allowed near the sect unless authorized by me from now on. If they dare get close, beat them up. Hearing Long Yijuan's command, the sect elders responded, yes, Sect Master. One more thing, Sect Master. This is regarding the last 2 spots for the Mystic Realm. Elder Shan said a moment later, and she continued, do we have any names yet? I was just about to bring this topic up. Long Yijuan nodded. Does anyone here have any recommendations? I've been too focused on Disciple Yuan and haven't paid much attention to the other core disciples. Well, besides Disciple Yuan, I can only think of 2 disciples who qualify for the Mystic Realm. Elder Bai said. So you're also thinking about those 2, huh? Long Yijuan mumbled. He then looked around and asked, do any of you have objections to letting those 2 disciples participate in the Mystic Realm with Disciple Yuan? Elder Shan then asked, just to be clear, these 2 disciples are, follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. It's Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye, said Long Yijuan. Gao Dongya is the current leader on the core disciples power ranking. He only became a core disciple 3 years ago and immediately shot up the rankings within months, reaching first place in less than a year of becoming a core disciple, and he has been in that position since then like an immovable mountain. As for Xue Jiye, while she is only ranked 13th in the leaderboards, she only recently became a core disciple half a year ago. In terms of talents and potential, she was on par with Gao Dongya. When should we make the announcement? Elder Xian then asked. Tomorrow. Long Yijuan immediately responded. The sect elders there nodded their heads. Meanwhile, in the real world, after dinner, Yuan said to Meixiu, the Mystic Realm is coming up and I am very close to making a breakthrough, so I will stay in the game tonight to cultivate. Okay. Meixiu agreed without any complaints. Thus, Yuan went back into the game sometime later, and he proceeded to spend the entire night cultivating. While increasing his cultivation in the real world is important, he also didn't want to disappoint those who were counting on him for the Mystic Realm. Updated from Light Novel Pub. +8, 019 Chi, +8, 132 Chi, +8, 252 Chi. After spending the entire night cultivating, Yuan gained another 250 million Chi, moving towards Spirit Master at a rapid rate. I have only about 1,000,000,000 qi left. If I continue to cultivate at this pace for 2 more days, I should be able to break through to Spirit Master. Yuan thought to himself as he logged off at sunrise for breakfast before returning to the game for another day of cultivation. Chapter 272 The Three Names? Early in the morning shortly after sunrise, Long Yijuan summoned all of the core disciples within the Dragon Essence Temple. Once they received this summoning, regardless of what they were doing, even if they were in closed cultivation at the Immortal Caves, the core disciples gathered at the location of the gathering within an hour. I was wondering when they'll announce this year's participants for the Mystic Realm. Right? They usually announce it a month before the Mystic Realm, but this year they waited until the very last minute. The core disciples there mumbled to each other while they waited for Long Yijuan to show up. I was getting worried that they might forgotten about it for a second. Forget about the Mystic Realm that will determine a sex ranking? Nobody would forget such an important event. Who do you think will get the spots for the Mystic Realm? I think we all know who'll be occupying the first and second spot. It'll probably be Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye, right? Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience, probably? You mean most likely? Out of all of us, they're the most prominent in terms of potential. The only question is who'll get the third spot. What about Liang Qichao? He's always mentioned when one talks about Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye. It's possible, but who knows, really? Everyone here has a chance to obtain that third spot. While the core disciples there made their guesses on who'll occupy the third spot, Fei Yuyin stood at the back of the crowd like a bystander with a nonchalant look on her face. Even though he's not a core disciple, it's already obvious that they'll pick him for the third spot. The image of Yuan's handsome face appeared in Fei Yuyin's head as she thought about him. Suddenly, someone tapped her on the shoulder, causing her to turn around. What do you want? Fei Yuyin immediately frowned after seeing Xian Wuhan standing behind her with an innocent-looking smile on her face. Who do you think will get the third spot for the Mystic Realm? Xian Wuhan suddenly asked her. Fei Yuyin silently looked at her for a moment before speaking. You should already know the answer to that question. Are you making fun of me? New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. You're no fun at all. Xian Wuhan shrugged and then she continued, Are you disappointed? Why would I be? I never hoped to be picked for the Mystic Realm in the first place. Fei Yuyin said. Xian Wuhan sighed and said, Sometimes I wonder why you're even in the Dragon Essence Temple. You would fit more with the Heavenly Melody Academy instead. Fei Yuyin remained silent at her remarks. A few moments later, someone there suddenly said, Look, it's Gao Dongya. He's managed to break through to the 7th level of the Spirit Warrior realm during his closed cultivation. Heavens, another breakthrough? When was his last breakthrough? 4 months ago. I swear it feels like he's always one level higher every time I see him. At this rate, he'll reach Spirit Master before he turns 30. What monstrous talents. A handsome young man with long black hair, eyes, and wearing a black disciple uniform could be seen slowly walking towards the disciples with a nonchalant look on his face, causing the disciples there to swallow nervously when they were met by his gaze. Once Gao Dongya arrived at the gathering area, the place grew significantly quieter. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Though, a couple of female disciples there approached him and began trying to start a conversation with him. Senior Brother Gao, congratulations on getting a spot. Although it hasn't been announced yet, we're confident that you'll definitely be picked. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Senior Brother Gao. We should have a celebration or something at my living quarters later. The other core disciples acted as though they couldn't hear their obvious flirting, as it was a common sight for the top disciples to have admirers. What a bunch of sluts. Just wait until they learn about Yuan. I won't be surprised even if they remove their clothes on the spot for him. Don't you think so, Disciple Fei? Xian Wuhan asked her in a low voice. Fei Yuyin looked at Xian Wuhan with disbelief on her face, but she managed to resist herself from responding to that claim in the end. A few minutes later, the disciples began talking again as a pretty young lady approached the crowd. Looks like Xue Jiye also experienced a breakthrough. 3rd level spirit warrior at 20 years old. Her talents are definitely on par with Gao Dongya, if not slightly behind. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. And just like how the female disciples surrounded Gao Dongya, some of the male disciples there approached Xue Jiye and began trying to strike a conversation with her. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Fairy Xue. Just a glance and I can already tell that you've become prettier. Fairy Xue, How about we have breakfast at the Dragon Pavilion after this gathering? It'll be my treat. Sometime later, Long Yijuan and a few of the higher-ranking sect elders such as Elder Xian and Elder Shan arrived at the gathering area. Greetings, Sect Master. Greetings, Grand Elders. Every disciple there lowered their heads and greeted them the moment they got close enough. After standing still, Long Yijuan spoke in a loud voice. I'm sure you all know why I gathered all of you here today. The Mystic Realm is in 4 days, and we will be announcing the disciples that were chosen to represent the Dragon Essence Temple and participate in the Mystic Realm right now. Long Yijuan cleared his throat before going straight into the subject without any speeches like usual. The disciples that will be participating in the Mystic Realm will be Disciple Gao Dongya and Disciple Xue Jiye. The core disciples didn't react much to the announcement since they had already expected this result, and they all patiently waited for the third name. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. However, to the disciples' surprise, Long Yijuan said in a calm voice, "That's all." What? The disciples' eyes widened with shock and disbelief. What about the third spot? There should be 3 disciples in total participating in the Mystic Realm. Where's the third name? What happened to the third spot? Chapter 273. Who's the third disciple? A sect master. That's only 2 names. What happened to the third spot? I thought we were given 3 spots for the Mystic Realm. One of the disciples there decided to ask him. Long Yijuan turned to look at the disciple who just spoke and responded in a calm voice. Indeed, the Dragon Essence Temple has been given 3 spots, and there will be 3 disciples participating in the Mystic Realm. However, I won't be naming the third disciple for now. Long Yijuan's words dumbfounded the disciples. You won't be naming the third disciple? Is it because they haven't decided on the third person yet, or do they want to keep this individual hidden for some reason? Gao Dongya narrowed his eyes with an uncertain expression on his face. Meanwhile, Xue Jiye raised her eyebrows and thought to herself, the sect master is clearly trying to hide this individual. But why? After pondering for a moment, the image of 2 glowing golden eyes behind a black jade mask appeared in her thoughts, causing her body to tremble. It couldn't be. Xue Jiye cried inwardly after recalling the cultivation prodigy who'd managed to comprehend 100% of the Tablet of Comprehension when she participated as an observer. While the Dragon Essence Temple has never sent a disciple that wasn't a core disciple to the Mystic Realm, there were no rules stating that it must be a core disciple. It's possible. That masked person might take the third spot. Xue Jiye thought to herself. Updated from Light Novel Pub? However, she hasn't heard of this person ever since the disciple examination ended. What happened to that person anyway? Did he join the sect? Or did he leave? Xue Jiye wondered to herself, feeling the desire to meet with this cultivation genius once again. Sometime later, another disciple raised his hands and asked, Sect Master, does that mean you've already picked a disciple for the third spot or you're still thinking? The disciples there swallowed nervously after hearing that question, as they also had the same question in their mind. Long Yijuan quickly responded, the third spot is already occupied by a disciple. If that's the case, why can't you tell us who this disciple is? While we have no complaints about Disciple Gao and Disciple Xue participating in the Mystic Realm since they definitely qualify more than us, we cannot say the same for this third disciple, said a disciple. And he continued, and if incorrect, we're allowed to challenge the sect's decision if we, the core disciples, believe that someone isn't qualified to participate in the Mystic Realm, as that's how it's always been. Indeed, you may challenge the sect's decision. However, that only applies when the disciple in question is questionable. In this case, it is without a doubt that this disciple qualifies for the Mystic Realm. Long Yijuan said in a confident voice. The disciples exchanged puzzled glances with each other. Just who is this disciple that has so much support and confidence from the sect master? Hell, even the sect elders there showed no signs of doubt, clearly showing their support for the sect master. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience. Seeing the doubtful atmosphere, Long Yijuan suddenly smiled and said, How about this? I am willing to bet my position as sect master of this sect that this disciple will, without a doubt, bring the Dragon Essence Temple to at least rank 3 at the Mystic Realm. If we achieve any less, I will resign from my position. What? Not just the disciples but even the sect elders there were greatly baffled by Long Yijuan's announcement. A sect master. That's a little? Elder Chen said to him in a nervous voice. While he also believes that Yuan would achieve a high rank in the Mystic Realm, nothing in this world is certain, especially when it comes to the Mystic Realm. Sect Master, you don't have to do that. We won't doubt your decision any longer, so please take back that statement. The disciples said to him in a panicked manner, as they couldn't have expected such a turn of events. However, Long Yijuan remained resolute and said, "This is not about your trust in me, but my trust in this disciple and my own judgment. If my judgment turns out to be wrong and it costs the Dragon Essence Temple the mystic realm, I don't deserve to be the sect master. That's all." The place quickly turned dead silent as nobody there could find any words to say to Long Yijuan, who was clearly very adamant about keeping to his words. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub.com. Does anyone here have anything else to say before I let you all go? Long Yijuan asked them after a moment of silence. The disciples remained silent, as their only question could not be answered at this moment. Then everybody but Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye may leave. Long Yijuan said to them a few moments later. Once all of the disciples beside the two Mystic Realm participants left, Long Yijuan said to them, "Follow me." Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye nodded their heads before following Long Yijuan back to the sect master's headquarters, where Long Yijuan proceeded to give them more details about the Mystic Realm. As you already know, the Mystic Realm is a month-long event where disciples from their respective sect must work together to obtain points by accomplishing feats within the Mystic Realm. Of course, this means that the sects with more slots have the advantage since they have more hands helping each other. But don't worry, I am confident that even with 3 people, we'll do fine. Teamwork is a must in the Mystic Realm, and I want the 2 of you to get used to each other over the next 4 days. Hearing Long Yijuan's words, Gao Dongyu spoke in a calm voice. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better if all 3 participants are here? How can we strengthen our relationships with each other if one of us is missing? Long Yijuan then said, "He's currently cultivating at Dragon's Peak right now, so that's impossible. However, once he's done, I will definitely let you guys meet." Chapter 274 Rainbow Koi. He's training at Dragon's Peak? Both Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye were surprised by this, since even core disciples such as them would need to go through a lot of trouble before they're allowed to cultivate there. Anyways, let's continue. Long Yijuan said, and he proceeded to speak more about the Mystic Realm to the 2 disciples. Meanwhile, at Dragon's Peak, Yuan suddenly stopped cultivating and stood up before shouting, "Oh no! I totally forgot about the lecture for the inner court disciple." Lecture? Feng Yuxiang asked him. It was supposed to happen after the inner court disciple examination, but I'd forgotten about it because of the dragon essence. What a blunder. I hope my absence didn't cause any inconvenience. He sighed. It's just a lecture, young master. You should be more worried about the Mystic Realm than some introduction class. Feng Yuxiang said. All right. Speaking of the Mystic Realm, do you know anything about this place, Xiaohua Feng? Yuan asked after sitting down again. No, Xiaohua doesn't know anything about the Mystic Realm. Xiaohua said, surprising Yuan since she's usually the most knowledgeable. I know about it. Feng Yuxiang's voice quickly resounded and she continued, it's a very large event in the lower heavens that only occurs once every 10 years. Updated from Light Novel Pub.com, it's an event where only the most powerful sects in the lower heavens can participate, and the results will determine the sect's rank for the next decade, so it's very important to these elite sects that care so much about their position. As for the participants in question, if you perform well and catch the attention of the judges, there's a very small chance that you'll be given the chance to become a disciple at one of the sects that exist in the upper heaven, Spirit Heaven. Wait a second. Does this mean the judges for this mystic realm are people from the upper heavens? Yuan asked. That's right. The mystic realm is organized by 7 different sects from the upper heavens. It's a tradition that has existed since ancient times. Feng Yuxiang said. I see. Anything else? Let's talk about the mystic realm itself. From what I heard, the mystic realm is actually a world of its own, meaning it doesn't belong to any of the heavens, said Feng Yuxiang. Anyways, while I haven't been to the mystic realm myself, I have heard plenty of stories about it. Inside the mystic realm, your cultivation base is wiped, so it's almost like you're starting from scratch in a sense. Inside the mystic realm, you can earn points by increasing your cultivation level or defeating magical beasts, and you can even earn points by helping people. Almost everything you do is judged. I see. Yuan mumbled. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub.com. Therefore, even if the young master reaches Spirit Master, it won't matter once you're inside the mystic realm. I know, but I still want to reach Spirit Master since I'm so close to it. Once I reach Spirit Master, he'll probably take a break from cultivating like this since I don't like spending most of my time sitting still like this. Yuan sighed. Young master, how close are you to your breakthrough? Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked him, and she continued, I have a monster core at the 6th level spirit warrior with me if you want to consume it. Eh? Really? But I don't want to accept something so precious from you without giving you anything in return, even if you're my servant. Yuan said to her. How about the young master donates more blood to me in return for the monster core? Feng Yuxiang said. Are you sure? They'll be giving you my blood regardless if you give me the monster core or not. I'm sure, young master. In fact, my body is craving for your blood even as we speak, and I am trying my best to hold it in. If giving you this monster core will allow me to drink your blood even a day sooner, I would not hesitate. After thinking about it for a moment, Yuan nodded his head and said, Okay. I'll exchange my blood for your monster core. After all, he was already getting tired of sitting still after just a few days of cultivation, and he hated remaining in one spot for long periods of time since it reminded him of the real world. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Great. Feng Yuxiang appeared from his body after Yuan agreed to accept the monster core, and she retrieved a monster core from her spatial ring. This is a monster core? Yuan raised his eyebrows at the glowing monster core that looked somewhat different from the monster cores he had eaten, as it had this fiery appearance. Did you forget who I was before I became your servant already, young master? I am the owner of one of the most prestigious shops in the Golden Phoenix Bazaar. I have no need for normal treasures, and monster cores are no different. Feng Yuxiang said. And she continued, this monster core belongs to a rainbow koi, an incredibly rare magical beast that can only be found in one place within the lower heavens, the frozen cave, one of the very few danger zones in this world. Rainbow kois are spirit warriors at birth, and they grow incredibly fast. However, they don't really have much combat prowess, if any at all, and they die naturally once they reach spirit master, so they have a short lifespan, and if they die naturally it won't drop its monster core. This is why rainbow koi monster cores are considered a priceless treasure and are sought after by many. Furthermore, people who absorb them have a very small chance to obtain a special power that allows them to control fire, and it gives more spiritual energy than normal monster cores at its level. Feng Yuxiang explained to him. Controlling fire? From a fish? How does that work? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Well, one can control fire using their spiritual energy, but those with this power can control fire without needing spiritual energy, saving them a lot of energy. Furthermore, the monster core enhances one's ability towards fire techniques, so most people looking for them are all practitioners who use techniques related to fire, such as alchemy masters. I see. What a unique monster core. It's definitely different from what I've consumed in the past. Yuan mumbled as he accepted the monster core from Feng Yuxiang. Chapter 275 Spirit Master. While it might not help you break through to Spirit Master, it should close that distance by a lot. Feng Yuxiang said to Yuan as she handed him the fiery-looking monster core that looked as though there were living flames trapped inside. Wow, it's warm? Yuan mumbled after feeling the heat the monster core was emitting on his palms. After taking a deep breath, Yuan popped the rainbow koi's monster core into his mouth, and unlike normal monster cores that only had a sweet taste, the rainbow koi's monster core actually tasted somewhat spicy after the sweetness. Heaven Refining Physique activated. 1,325,888,196 chi has been refined from the rainbow koi's monster core. 19,691, 520, 000/19, 691, 520, 000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. Because your chi experience is already full, you will not be able to receive any more chi until you reach the next realm. You have met the requirements for a breakthrough. You have reached first level Spirit Master. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Plus 10,000 stats. Your advanced senses has developed into superior senses. Superior senses. Rank, Earth. Description. Greatly enhances the functions of all available senses permanently. Requires no activation. Heaven Refining Physique activated. The physique suddenly activated again. You have gained novice fire control, weak fire enhancement and weak fire resistance from consuming the rainbow koi's monster core. Novice fire control, visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. Description. Allows you to control fire elements without using spiritual energy. Weak fire enhancement. Description. Enhances all fire technique strength by 50%. No activation required. Weak fire resistance. Description. Slightly increases your fire resistance. No activation required. Oh, I had a breakthrough. Am now a spirit master. Yuan looked at his hands with a slightly dazed look on his face, feeling his body overwhelming with energy and strength. What? Feng Yuxiang stared at Yuan with a gawking look on her face, as she didn't expect him to suddenly break through, much less a breakthrough without any enlightenment. Not even in her wildest dream could she have imagined that Yuan would reach Spirit Master without needing any enlightenment. This kind of talent was simply too terrifying. It shouldn't exist if she has to be honest. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. Com, so Brother Yuan didn't need enlightenment to reach Spirit Master either, huh? Just where is Brother Yuan's limit if he even has one? Xiao Hua's defeated voice suddenly resounded, sounding like she was already used to it. What do you mean by that? Feng Yuxiang asked her. Brother Yuan also entered Spirit Warrior without any enlightenment. It was just like any other normal breakthrough for him. Xiao Hua said. Unbelievable. Feng Yuxiang mumbled in a dazed voice and she continued, just what is your body made of, young master? Even if you ask me that, how am I supposed to answer that kind of question? Yuan responded with a bittersweet smile on his face. The most logical explanation would be the game system that's allowing him to break through without needing any enlightenment. Another reason that could be causing this would be his unknown bloodline. Yuan summoned his status and looked at it. Cultivation. First level Spirit Master Legacy. None visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience bloodline. None physique. Heaven refining physique physical strength. 39,734 mental strength. 39,975 soul strength. 51,410 physical defense. 39,710 mental defense. 40,821 chi experience? Why does my chi experience have so many question marks? Is the number so big that even the game is having trouble calculating it? Yuan wondered to himself after seeing it. How will he see how much chi he needs for the next level now? Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience sometime later. Yuan said, anyways, now that I am a spirit master, I no longer need to continue cultivating, so I'll just leave this place and find something else to do until the mystic realm. Young master, what about the fire controlling skill? Did you manage to obtain it after consuming the monster core? Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked him. Yuan nodded and said, yes, I got it. Feng Yuxiang didn't show much of a reaction after learning that Yuan had managed to overcome the small chance and obtain the ability to control fire without using his spiritual energy, mostly because she was still numb from her previous shock. I'm going to tell Elder Xian that I'm done here, Yuan said before retrieving the communication Jade slip and calling Elder Xian. What's the matter, Disciple Yuan? Elder Xian picked up a couple of moments later than usual. Senior Xian, I just had a breakthrough and reached Spirit Master. What should I do now? Yuan asked him. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Com, however, Elder Xian did not respond even a good minute later, making Yuan wonder if Elder Xian was still there. Elder Xian? Did you hear me? What did you just say? I'm sorry, but I don't think I heard you correctly just now. Did you say that you'd reached Spirit Master? Elder Xian finally responded, his voice filled with disbelief. Yes, that's right. I've just reached Spirit Master. Yuan repeated. After another moment of silence, Elder Xian spoke loudly, but he wasn't talking to Yuan. Sect Master. Ichi did it. He reached Spirit Master. What? Is that true? Long Yijin's shocked voice, which was also filled with excitement, quickly responded. Yes, I'm speaking to him right now. Elder Xian said. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. Ha! This is great. Bring him here. Long Yijuan then said. Yes, Sect Master. Elder Xian said before returning to Yuan. Stay right there. They'll be there in a few to pick you up. The Sect Master would like to speak with you. Okay, Yuan said before closing the connection. Meanwhile, at the Sect Master's headquarters, after Elder Xian left the place, Long Yijuan looked at Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye and said to them with a smile on his face, looks like you'll meet him sooner than expected. Gao Dongya swallowed nervously. I heard them talking about reaching Spirit Master. Don't tell me, he wondered inwardly. Meanwhile, Xue Jiye had another thought in her mind. Is it him? Could it really be him? That genius during the disciple examination. Chapter 276 Introducing the Team. A few minutes after he spoke with Elder Xian through the communication Jade slip, Yuan could see a cloud in the distance approaching his location. A few more moments later, This cloud landed in front of Yuan with Elder Chen standing on top of it. First and foremost, allow me to congratulate you on your breakthrough, Disciple Yuan. You don't see an 18-year-old spirit master every day if ever. Elder Chen said with a warm smile on his face, looking like a grandfather watching his grandchildren grow up. Thank you, Elder Chen, Yuan said. Come with me. I will take you to the sect master where you'll meet the other 2 disciples that will be participating in the mystic realm with you. Yuan nodded and stepped onto the flying treasure before they soared to the sect master's headquarters. They landed a few minutes later and they walked into the building. It's really you? I knew it. Xue Jiye shouted in a surprised voice the moment she saw Yuan's black jade mask, even pointing at him with a trembling finger. Yuan turned to look at Xue Jiye and he mumbled, "Oh, you're the girl who accidentally leaked herself during, Hey. Why are you bringing that up?" Xue Jiye quickly interrupted him in a panicked manner, and she continued with a flushed face, "And that was entirely your fault. If you hadn't looked at me with those eyes, none of that would have happened. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience. Oh, right. The 2 of you have already met." Elder Chen remembered that Xue Jiye was the one watching over Yuan during the Tablet of Comprehension exam. Disciple Yuan, congratulations on reaching Spirit Master so quickly. Once again you have exceeded my expectations. Long Yijuan suddenly said to him, shocking Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye who only noticed his immense aura after the mention. Heavens! How long has it been since I last saw him when he was only at the 5th level of Spirit Warrior? Xue Jiye cried inwardly after seeing Yuan's overwhelming growth. Meanwhile, Gao Dongya stood in the background with an unreadable expression on his face. Come over here, Disciple Yuan, so I can introduce you to these 2 who will be participating in the mystic realm with you. Long Yijuan said. Yuan nodded his head and went to stand beside Long Yijuan, who patted his shoulders and said, "This is Disciple Yuan, a disciple who recently joined the Dragon Essence Temple. And before you question his qualifications, allow me to tell you some of his achievements." Long Yijuan cleared his throat before speaking in a manner that sounded like he was bragging about his own son in public. Disciple Yuan has not only managed to take 100 steps during the 3rd test at the Silver Pond but had also managed to achieve 100% comprehension at the final exam with the Tablet of Comprehension. What? 100 steps in the Silver Pond? Xue Jiye exclaimed. However, Long Yijuan wasn't finished and he continued in an even prouder-sounding voice, "That's not all. Do you remember what happened recently at the Carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower? The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Impossible. You don't mean he's..." Gao Dongya couldn't help but open his mouth after hearing this obvious hint. That's right. Disciple Yuan was the one who cleared all 100 floors, becoming the first person in the sect's history to achieve such a feat. Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye swallowed nervously upon hearing this, and they recalled the rumors that had been spreading around the sect regarding the challenge on the 100th floor. They slowly turned to look at Yuan and his clear eyes that glistened brightly behind his black mask. Now introduce yourselves. Long Yijuan asked the 2 disciples. Xue Jiye nodded and went first. Even though we have already met before, allow me to introduce myself again. I am Xue Jiye, currently 20 years old, and I specialize in dagger techniques. Yuan raised his eyebrows after learning that Xue Jiye also uses daggers, taking him by surprise. After Xue Jiye's introduction, the handsome young man standing beside her said in a calm voice, "Gao Dongya, 25 years old, and am a sword master. Now that you know each other, I want you 3 to familiarize yourselves with each other before the mystic realm, as you are required to work in a team inside." Long Yijuan said to them. Updated from Light Novel Pub. And then he continued, "Do any of you have any questions for me?" Yuan quickly raised his hands and spoke, "When is the mystic realm?" Long Yijuan quickly replied, "The mystic realm will happen in 4 days, but we will leave the sect 2 days before that since the place is very far from our current location, so you all have 2 days to prepare yourselves. Of course, since the mystic realm doesn't allow you to bring any treasures with you inside, you shouldn't need any luggage to begin with," he continued. "I would tell you more about the mystic realm, but there have been rumors about the mystic realm being somewhat different from the previous years, that something big has happened in the upper heavens, so I can only tell you what the previous mystic realms have been like." Thus, Long Yijuan proceeded to tell them about the experiences the previous disciples had experienced inside the mystic realm. By the time Long Yijuan was finished, many hours had passed with half of the day already done. Anyways, this is all I know about the mystic realm. It may or may not be helpful information. Long Yijuan said to them, and he continued, I will contact you again in 2 days when we leave or when I need you again. Sometime later, Yuan and the other two disciples left the sect master's headquarters. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Hey, how about we go eat something at the Dragon Pavilion? My treat. Xue Jiye suddenly said shortly after they left, her gaze directly on Yuan as she spoke, almost like there was a deeper meaning behind her words. It'll pass. Gao Dongya didn't hesitate to refuse before walking away. Chapter 277 Xue Jiye. What an unfriendly fellow, even though the sect master just told us to connect with each other. Oh well, at least I won't be using more contribution points. Xue Jiye said as she walked. Gao Dongya walked away. A few seconds later, Xue Jiye returned to Yuan and asked him again, what about you? Want to come? Yuan nodded his head. I will go with you. There was no way he'd refuse food, especially if it was free. Of course, he also wanted to know a little bit more about the disciples that will be participating in the mystic realm with him. Great. Then let's go. Xue Jiye began walking shortly later, and she thought to herself, unless he plans on eating with that mask on, I will finally be able to see the face behind that mask. The two of them arrived at the Dragon Pavilion sometime later, and they were taken to the best seat in the place. Once they were seated, Xue Jiye said, go ahead. Order whatever you want. They'll pay for it. Yuan nodded his head and proceeded to pick every item on the menu, shocking the waitress there and Xue Jiye, who stared at him with wide eyes. Despite being a core disciple and unlike Fei Yuyan, Xue Jiye did not have many contribution points to spare since she would use them to exchange for treasures to power up, and she didn't expect Yuan to order that much food, putting her in a difficult spot. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. Can you really eat all of that? Or are you just messing with me? Xue Jiye asked him after the waitress went away to get the order. Why would I mess with you? Of course I can eat all of them. Why else would I order them? Yuan quickly responded. Xue Jiye was left speechless by his serious voice. After a moment of silence, she said, changing the topics, anyways, how long has it been since you joined the sect? A month? Yuan nodded and said, about. What have you been doing since then? Well, besides challenging the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower and becoming the first person to have cleared all 100 floors? Yuan had to think a little before he responded. And after thinking for a minute, Yuan realized that he didn't really do much in the sect besides the Zither competition and participating in a match. Well, I participated in a music competition and I fought another disciple on the stage, he finally said. Visit Light Novel Pub? For a better experience, you fought another disciple? Who would dare to fight you? Xue Jiye seemed more surprised that anyone would fight a genius like him than anything. Someone named Wu Laohu, I think. Wu Laohu? Never heard of him. Xue Jiye shrugged. As a core disciple, they usually don't pay attention to matters outside of the inner court, so while Wu Laohu was quite famous within the outer court, he was essentially a nobody in the inner court. Sometime later, the waitress returned with the food. Well, go on. I'd like to see you eat all of them. Xue Jiye said to him, anticipating to see Yuan remove his mask. Yuan nodded, and as Xue Jiye had expected, he removed his black jade mask so he could eat properly. So young. Xue Jiye's jaw dropped upon seeing Yuan's young and handsome face. How old are you again? I'm 18 years old. Yuan casually responded. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. 18? Xue Jiye cannot imagine being 18 years old and a spirit master at the same time. What kind of talent would that take? If only Xue Jiye knew that Yuan had only started cultivating recently. Who knows how she, or anyone in this world would react if they knew. While Xue Jiye stared at him silently, Yuan went to eat his food before it turned cold, quickly consuming everything on the table. Did my capacity increase after becoming a spirit master? Yuan wondered inwardly after realizing that he was not full despite eating so much food that would normally give him a full belly. Meanwhile, Xue Jiye was full after a single dish. Thank you for this meal, disciple Xue, Yuan said to her after wiping his lips with a warm towel. Don't even mention it. She responded in a defeated voice. After paying the bill with what felt like a bleeding heart, Xue Jiye said, I guess I will see you in 2 days when the mystic realm begins. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience. Yuan nodded. See you later. By the time they left the Dragon Pavilion, the sky was already beginning to darken. Yuan went straight home where he tested the effects of becoming a spirit master. The first he did was test his divine sense, and to his surprise, the area of effect for his divine sense more than doubled, perhaps even tripling compared to before, allowing him to see even Min Li's house, the entirety of it. Wow! I can see so many things at once. Yuan mumbled in a voice of awe. Just wait until you're a spirit grandmaster or higher, young master. In the upper heavens, there are people who can cover even an entire city with their divine sense. Feng Yuxiang said to him. Yuan nodded. After familiarizing himself with his new profound strength, Yuan logged off for the day to test out his divine sense in the real world, but alas, he was still unable to fully release his divine sense. Welcome back, Meixiu, Yuan said to her after she returned from school. Updated from Light Novel Pub? I'm back, Yuan. You don't have school tomorrow, right? That's right, Meixiu said. Then would you like to play with me tomorrow? The Mystic Realm is in a few days, and I would like to hand the divine-grade treasure to you so that you can sell it. Yuan said to her. I promised the young lady that I would visit her tomorrow morning, but I will play the game once I return, Meixiu said. Okay. Meixiu went to prepare dinner later, and Yuan cultivated while he waited. Sometime later, Meixiu returned to the room with dinner. Chapter 278 Visiting Yu Rou. After feeding Yuan, Meixiu went to do her own things until she went to sleep. Meanwhile, Yuan stayed up all night to cultivate like usual. I don't even remember when was the last time I got 2 nights of sleep in a row. Yuan thought to himself, but oddly enough, he didn't feel any different despite lacking sleep. In fact, he felt more refreshed and energetic than ever. The following morning, after feeding Yuan breakfast, Meixiu returned to the main house to meet with Yu Rou. Hey Meixiu. Even though we saw each other at school yesterday, it feels longer than that, Yu Rou said to her. However, Meixiu didn't immediately respond, and she looked around the room with raised eyebrows. After a moment of silence, she spoke. Young lady, when was the last time you cleaned your room? It's a mess in here. You're exaggerating, Meixiu, Yu Rou casually said. Meixiu turned to look at the clothes laying on the floor as well as the dirty desk in the distance. Normally, Meixiu would be the one who cleans Yu Rou's room daily, but since she no longer lives here and spends most of her time with Yuan, that has become impossible. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Young lady, did you even find someone to replace me? Meixiu suspected that nobody was taking care of Yu Rou in her place because no servant would dare to allow such an unkempt appearance in her room. After a moment of silence, Yu Rou spoke. I didn't find a replacement for you. What? Meixiu asked her in a genuinely surprised voice. Think about it, Meixiu. If I replaced you, my parents would know that you're currently taking care of Brother Tian, and there's a good chance that they'll tell you not to help him. Therefore I cannot replace you no matter what. Yu Rou gave Meixiu an explanation on why she didn't find another servant. Oh. Upon realizing the situation, Meixiu nodded her head. However, that doesn't excuse your messy room, young lady. I'm going to clean up now, Meixiu said, and she immediately went to tidy up the room. Seeing this, Yu Rou said with a smile on her face, I didn't want to take any more of your job away from you, so I purposefully refused to clean my room so you can do it. Meixiu was speechless. Does Yu Rou intend on leaving her room dirty for an entire week just so she could clean it for her? That's unbefitting of her image. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. What about the other things? Who will take care of you? Meixiu then asked her. I don't need anybody to take care of me. I have been taking care of Brother Tian while taking care of myself for many years now, as if I need someone to do everything for me. And I don't trust anybody else to be so close in my life. They'll definitely tell my parents about everything I do. By the way, speaking of Brother Tian, how's he doing recently? Did anything significant happen? Not that I know of. Meixiu shook her head as she folded Yu Rou's clothes. Oh, I see. Oh, when you go back, can you tell Brother Tian that players who have been approaching the Dragon Essence Temple are being beaten by the disciples of that sect so they cannot approach the place? Though, I think he should still try to hide his identity since we can never be too careful. Meixiu looked at her with a still face before speaking. Young lady, wouldn't it be better if you spoke to him yourself? Yu Rou immediately frowned and said, And how am I supposed to do that, Meixiu? I cannot even meet with Brother Tian. While I can sneak a meeting with him, I shouldn't do something so risky when everything is still heated regarding Brother Tian's situation. But you don't need to see the young master to speak with him, young lady. You can always call him. There's no way the masters would find out that way, Meixiu said. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Yu Rou immediately turned dead silent, and she stared at Meixiu with a shocked expression on her face, looking like she'd just realized something. Why didn't I think of that before? My brain must have stopped working after being told that I could no longer meet with Brother Tian. I totally forgot about this method. Yu Rou exclaimed a moment later. Thank you for reminding me. But Brother Tian doesn't have a phone. Meixiu, since you'll be with Brother Tian whenever I can call him, he'll just call your phone and speak with Brother Tian that way. Yu Rou then said. Meixiu nodded. I understand. He'll call you later tonight after dinner, so make sure you're free by then. After cleaning Yu Rou's room, Meixiu went to work outside a little just so the other servants won't be suspicious of her disappearance. Isn't that Meixiu? Hey Meixiu. Where have you been lately? It feels like forever since I last saw you. One of the other servants called her out after noticing her. Meixiu stopped sweeping the floor and turned to look at the middle-aged woman that was approaching her, and she spoke with a nonchalant look on her face. The young lady has assigned me with a project, so I spend most of my time outside now. The middle-aged lady nodded and said, It must be hard being the only person working for the young lady. However, it's definitely much better than working for that crippled thing. I cannot imagine being near him, much less taking care of him every day. I'm glad the masters finally got rid of him. It was long overdue. The young lady can also finally focus on her school and music without wasting her time on that thing. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meixiu's grip on the broom subtly tightened when she heard the other servant's words, but she didn't say anything and remained silent. Hell, even her nonchalant expression remained still, acting like she wasn't affected by the other servant's clear disdain for Yuan. Chapter 279 Housekeeper. By the way, if you're still cleaning, you should hurry up. The housekeeper, your mother, shall be here to visit us in half an hour. The other servant said to her before walking away in a nonchalant manner. Mother, ha. Meixiu mumbled in a low voice. Indeed, visiting Yu Rou wasn't the only reason she returned today, as her mother, the head of the servants, was visiting today as well. 10 minutes later, after cleaning up the area outside of Yu Rou's room, Meixiu went to the courtyard where many other servants were already gathered. There were about a dozen servants working at the house, and all of them were already standing in an orderly fashion in a straight line. It's been a while since the housekeeper visited us, and whenever she does, it's because something bad has happened. Not always. Sometimes she visits us to make sure things are in an orderly fashion. Of course, if she finds even the slightest mistakes, we'll get yelled at, and that happens every single time she visits. Even though the housekeeper had yet to arrive, these maids didn't dare to speak loudly, and they all mumbled to each other. Meixiu ignored them and went to stand in the formation. The other servants went silent for a moment when they noticed Meixiu. Out of all of the servants there, she was the youngest and most definitely the prettiest. Furthermore, Meixiu worked directly with Yu Rou, the young lady, making her position above theirs automatically. This would, of course, cause some people to be jealous of her. However, knowing who Meixiu's mother was, they didn't dare to badmouth her, as they feared the housekeeper more than the masters themselves. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. A few minutes later, much earlier than expected, a figure could be seen approaching them from a distance. It was a tall and pretty woman with black hair tied into a large bun behind her head, and she had a cold and serious expression on her face. At glance, one could see similarities between her and Meixiu, such as their naturally nonchalant facial features and their somewhat distant aura. When the servants saw this woman's figure, they immediately straightened their bodies and faces. Once the housekeeper stopped walking and stood a few meters in front of the formation, the servants all bowed and greeted her simultaneously. Good morning, senior housekeeper. The housekeeper didn't respond to their greetings and proceeded to walk and stand in front of the servant that was to the very right of the formation. Once the housekeeper stopped walking, the servant lifted her head and stood there like a statue. The housekeeper proceeded to inspect the servant's uniform and her appearance overall. Turn. The servant turned her body around at the housekeeper's command. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Calm turn. A few moments later, the servant turned around, facing the housekeeper again. Your collar is crooked, there's a strand of hair on your shoulder, and your shoes are dusty. Since when did we hire monkeys to work for the Yu family? Get out of my sight and fix yourself right now. The housekeeper said to the servant in a cold voice. Yes, housekeeper. The servant didn't dare to complain despite being called a monkey, and she quickly left the scene. Once she finished inspecting the first servant, The housekeeper went to stand in front of the next servant and began inspecting her as well. The housekeeper continued to inspect the servants until all of them were checked. Turn. Meixiu turned around in a smooth and graceful movement. Turn. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meixiu turned around again. The housekeeper silently stared at Meixiu for a moment before turning around and walking back to her original spot without saying a word. By the time the housekeeper finished her inspection, the servants that were told to leave have returned with their appearances corrected. Once everyone was back, the housekeeper said, "It appears that most of you have gotten complacent since my last visit, hence your disgraceful appearances. If I spot even a single mistake during my next visit which will be unannounced, I will have everyone here retake their maid training. Of course, you can refuse, but that will be the end of your career in the Yu family." The servants there trembled after hearing the housekeeper's words. A few moments later, the housekeeper continued, "I will walk around the house in a moment to make sure you're not slacking on cleaning the household either." The housekeeper dismissed the servants a moment later, telling them to go back to work. However, just as Meixiu began walking, she was stopped. "The source of this content is Light Novel Pub? You stay right here, Meixiu." "Yes, housekeeper," Meixiu responded before standing there in silence. Once all of the other servants disappeared, the housekeeper approached Meixiu and said, "You don't seem any different than usual despite the situation." "I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, housekeeper," Meixiu said. "You can drop the act with me, little girl. The young master was disowned and you're telling me that you don't feel anything?" The housekeeper said to her, "Is that why you visited today, mother?" Meixiu asked her. "Yes, because I wanted to see your crying face, but it appears to me that you're not the least worried or saddened that he is no longer in your life. And to think that you used to motivate yourself using the young master whenever you were having difficulties during training." Meixiu's eyebrows twitched upon hearing her mother's words. And her mother continued, "Or did you forget about it? If you forgot your purpose, why you became a servant in the first place, allow me to help you remember. You were originally trained to become the young master's personal servant and more. The reason you even managed to endure the hellish training at such a young age was because you wanted to be with him, by the young master's side. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. You don't have to remind me because I remember it very well, mother," Meixiu said after a moment of silence. "Really? Because it doesn't look that way." Her mother stared at her with a mysterious glint in her eyes. Chapter 280. Meixiu's mother? Why do you even care anyways? You usually don't talk about him. Furthermore, the young master is gone and there's nothing you nor I can do about it," Meixiu said when her mother continued glaring at her like she did something wrong. "Do you really not care about the young master? Did your feelings for him change after he became a cripple? I guess you're no different from the other maids, always filled with disdain towards him and forgetting who he used to be." Her mother shook her head. Meixiu gritted her teeth after hearing her mother's words before shouting in a loud voice, "Don't compare me to those trash." Her mother remained a calm expression despite Meixiu's unexpected outburst, or maybe because she expected Meixiu's outburst that she didn't react. Regardless, she has always managed to break Meixiu's nonchalant appearance with ease. "I see," her mother said in a nonchalant voice before turning around and walking away. "Follow me," she suddenly said. Meixiu didn't say anything and followed her mother inside the house. A few minutes later, they arrived in front of Yu Rou's room, something Meixiu expected when she saw the direction they were walking in. Meixiu's mother knocked on the doors immediately after they arrived, and she proceeded to stand in front of the doors in a manner that reeked of professionalism. Updated from Light Novel Pub? Meanwhile, Meixiu stood beside her in a similar fashion. A few moments later, Yu Rou opened the doors. "Greetings, young lady." Meixiu's mother bowed to Yu Rou and greeted her. Meixiu followed despite already meeting with Yu Rou before this. "Hello, Miss Meifeng. It's been a while." Yu Rou returned the greeting in a graceful manner. "May I come inside for a moment?" Meifeng asked her. "Of course." Yu Rou nodded. Meixiu and her mother, Meifeng, entered Yu Rou's room a moment later. Upon entering the room, Meifeng immediately started looking around the room with her sharp gaze, clearly looking to see if the room was clean. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Don't worry, Miss Meifeng. Meixiu has been doing her job flawlessly," Yu Rou said with a smile on her face. "I just wanted to make sure that my daughter hasn't been slacking on her work." Meifeng nodded her head, yet she still continued to inspect Yu Rou's room for another minute afterward, even wiping uncommon areas behind Yu Rou's desk with her fingers to see if there was any dust. Anyways, why did you come here today, Miss Meifeng? Yu Rou asked her as she took a seat on the bed. Meifeng then said, I just wanted to make sure you were doing fine, young lady. Even though I work at the main household now, I used to be your caretaker. Is it weird for me to come by once in a while to see your condition? Yu Rou showed a bittersweet smile before speaking. As expected, you're here because of my brother's situation. I'm sorry you had to go through this, young lady. Don't tell the masters I said this, but I really don't think the young master deserved to be disowned. Even though he's still so young, had already worked enough and deserves to rest for the rest of his life. Meifeng's words dumbfounded Meixiu. In her mind, there was no way her mother could show such compassion, at least she has never seen it before. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. Yu Rou nodded, thank you Miss Meifeng, but I am fine. Updated from Light Novel Pub. After a moment of silence, Meifeng suddenly asked, the young master, where is he right now? I cannot imagine leaving someone in his condition in the street and without a place to stay. Furthermore, his caretaker, who's currently taking care of him. That's. Yu Rou immediately hesitated on responding. Seeing this, Meifeng continued, I know you're hesitant about telling me anything and rightfully so. However, I am truly worried about the young master's well-being. You may not know this, but I was the young master's personal caretaker at one point. Really? Yu Rou's eyes widened at Meifeng's words. Meixiu was also surprised to hear this since she doesn't remember seeing her mother assist Yuan before. I was only assigned to him for a very brief moment, but during that short time, I've come to adore the young master and his talents that took the world by storm. I wanted to continue being his caretaker so I can personally witness his growth as a prodigy, but there were too many other things that needed my attention, so I was eventually reassigned by the masters. Meifeng said with a disheartened look on her face, her voice sincere. However, before Yu Rou could even respond, Meifeng continued, I'm sure the young master has a place to stay now, but that's not what I'm worried about. I am worried about his caretaker more than anything else. In fact, I have someone in mind. If you allow me, I will have that person take care of the young master. That's a bit. Yu Rou didn't know how she should respond, and her eyes subconsciously turned to look at Meixiu for help. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. As the head of all servants who could spot dust even from across the room, there was no way Meifeng could have missed the obvious shift in Yu Rou's eyes. I see. It's no wonder why I don't feel any sadness coming from you, Meixiu. Meifeng slowly turned around to look at her daughter with a narrowed gaze, and she continued in a slow but clear voice, it's because you were never separated to begin with. You are the young master's new caretaker, am I right? Meixiu swallowed nervously after hearing Meifeng's words that were right on the spot. Miss Meifeng. This is. Yu Rou also began panicking. What if she tells Meixiu that she cannot take care of Yuan? What if she assigns another individual to be Yuan's caretaker? That's right, mother. I am currently taking care of the young master. Do you have a problem with that? Meixiu responded, not even bothering to hide the fact. Chapter 281 Yellow Envelope. Do I have a problem, you say? Since when did you obtain the courage to speak back to me in such a manner? Meifeng narrowed her eyes at Meixiu. However, Meixiu did not back down and continued to stare at her own mother with a serious expression on her face. Miss Meifeng. Yu Rou called out to her with cold sweat running down her own back. After a moment of awkward silence, Meifeng finally spoke with a slight smile on her face. No, I don't have any problems. In fact, I was going to help you volunteer to be the young master's caretaker. Really? Yu Rou was surprised by Meifeng's approval. Meifeng nodded and said, when I couldn't stay by the young master's side, I thought that I could perhaps have Meixiu stand by his side in my stead. That's why I suggested training her in the first place. Meixiu's eyes widened with surprise. While Jade agreed to take the training of her own will, she didn't know of her mother's intentions until today, and it was quite shocking to say the least. Are you not worried about my parents saying something, Miss Meifeng? I doubt they'll allow your daughter to take care of Brother Tian. Yu Rou suddenly asked her. Yes, I am. Hence why I will be giving you two choices now, Meixiu. Meifeng said, and she stared at Meixiu dead in the eyes with a serious expression. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. 1. You will remain in the Yu family and continue serving the young lady as her servant. However, you are not allowed to take care of the young master, as there is no way the masters would allow you to do that. Or you can continue being the young master's caretaker. However, if you choose this path, you will have to leave the Yu family and stop being the young lattice caretaker. It's either the young master or the young lady, you can't have both. Which will you pick? Meixiu's eyes widened with shock upon being given these two options. However, to Meifeng and Meixiu's surprise, Yu Rou was the first to speak, and she said in a resolute voice, Meixiu, you must pick Brother Tian. I can take care of myself, but Brother Tian? He cannot do that. If I leave the Yu family, what will happen to school? Meixiu suddenly asked. Of course, you will no longer be able to attend the same school as the young lady, as you're only there because of the Yu family. However, if you're willing to pay the school fees by yourself, you'll still be able to attend the school like normal. Meixiu frowned. Paying the school's fee by herself? Even with her savings, she won't last until the end of the year if she had to pay for such a prestigious school by herself. I know this is a difficult choice for you, but you cannot continue to sneak around. The masters will eventually find out that you're helping the young master behind their backs, and the punishment for that will be much worse than just leaving the Yu family. Hell, even my position may be at risk. Meifeng said. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. And she continued, if you choose to leave the Yu family to take care of the young master, he'll also try to support you however I can. As for the young lady, I believe her when she says that she can take care of herself. Meixiu, do you even have to think about this? You need to pick Brother Tian. As for your school, well, think of something. Yu Rou continued to urge her. Meixiu suddenly closed her eyes, and memories of her childhood with Yuan quickly flowed into her head. What's wrong, Meixiu? Did you mess up again? Come here, you can cry on my shoulders. Yuan's childish voice resounded in her head. Crying again? Here, do you want some chocolate? I'll make you feel better. Your training is almost done? Congratulations. Let's both do our best, okay? Meixiu opened her eyes after a long minute of silence before walking in front of Yu Rou. After taking a deep breath, Meixiu lowered her body and bowed to Yu Rou. I'm sorry, young lady, but I have decided to leave the Yu family. Please forgive me. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience. A smile appeared on Yu Rou's face and she nodded. Thank you for your years of dedication and hard work, Meixiu. Please take care of Brother Tian from now on. I will definitely repay you in the future. Sometime later, Meifeng said, I will let the masters know of your departure later, Meixiu. She then turned to look at Yu Rou and continued, Young lady, if you don't mind, can I visit the young master? I haven't seen him in years. Yu Rou nodded and said, Meixiu, you can bring Miss Meifeng to see Brother Tian when you leave. He'll have the other servants pack your things so you don't have to worry about that. Thank you, young lady. Don't call me that anymore, Meixiu. You're no longer working for me and I am no longer your young lady. Call me Sister Rou. I understand, Sister Rou. Meixiu said to her after a slight hesitation, feeling a little bit odd afterward. After talking with Yu Rou for a little bit longer, Meixiu left the place with Meifeng. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. Once she was alone, Yu Rou laid on the bed with a dazed look on her face. Not just Brother Tian, even Meixiu is gone now, leaving me all alone in this place. Even though she personally encouraged Meixiu to leave, Yu Rou couldn't help but shed some tears from Meixiu's departure. After a moment of silence, she mumbled, Maybe I should just leave this place and go with Brother Tian and Meixiu. Yu Rou then got off the bed and walked to her desk. After unlocking one of the drawers with a key, Yu Rou used another key to unlock a box that was inside the drawers, retrieving a large yellow envelope that had a white label that read Certificate of Adoption. Yu Rou carefully opened the envelope that appeared to have already been opened before and stared at the certificate after taking it out, her expression as calm as a still pond. After staring at the certificate and a certain name on it for a few moments, Yu Rou placed it back inside the envelope and locked her drawers before leaving her room with a gentle smile on her face. Chapter 282 Apology. After leaving the house, Meixiu brought her mother to Yuan's apartment in a limousine. Of course, this limousine belonged to Meifeng despite her status as a servant, as she was only second in rank in the Yu family, directly below Yu Rou and her parents. The young master is currently living in this apartment? Meifeng raised her eyebrows upon arriving at the place. While the apartment wasn't too bad, it wasn't fitting for someone like Yuan, at least that's what Meifeng thought. In her mind, a genius like Yuan, someone who can literally make money rain with his godlike musical talents, doesn't deserve to live in an apartment with hundreds of other individuals. Sometime later they entered the elevator and quickly made their way to the 17th floor. Clack. Meixiu opened the door to 17F with her keys and said, "Young master, I'm home." Yuan, who was cultivating while waiting for Meixiu's return, was puzzled to hear the words young master come out of her mouth when she seemed to have gotten used to calling him Yuan. However, Yuan realized something was amiss when he heard two sets of footsteps entering the apartment. "Did Yu Rou come?" "No. These footsteps are too gentle." Yuan wondered to himself who this visitor could be if not Yu Rou. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. "Come, young master, you have a visitor," Meixiu said to him from outside his room after gently knocking on his doors. "Who is it?" Yuan asked. "Young master, it's me." Meifeng quickly responded in an unbelievably soft voice. "And Miss Meifeng?" Yuan immediately recognized her mature voice despite many years of not hearing it. "May I come inside?" Meifeng asked him from outside. "Why yes. Please come inside." Meifeng turned to look at Meixiu and said to her with a serious expression, "Stay out here. I want to speak with him privately." Although she was hesitant to leave Yuan alone with her mother, she couldn't find the strength to refuse and nodded her head. Meifeng approached the doorknob with her hands, and after taking a deep breath, she turned the handle and opened the door. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. Upon entering Yuan's room and closing the door, Meifeng turned to look at the young man lying on the bed. "Young master." Meifeng was surprised to see Yuan's healthy complexion, but she didn't think too much about it for now and decided to kneel beside the bed on both her knees. "Miss Meifeng, what are you doing here?" Yuan was worried that his adopted parents might have found out about Meixiu helping him, hence why her mother was here. "No, the masters don't know about my presence here. You can relax. I'm not here to separate Meixiu from you, I can't." As though she could see through his worries, Meifeng reassured him of his worries in a gentle voice. "Then why are you?" "I'm here to apologize to you, dear young master." Meifeng suddenly reached for one of Yuan's hands and held it close to her heart, treating it as though it was some kind of fragile treasure. "Apologize? What for?" Yuan asked her in a truly puzzled voice. "For everything." Meifeng sighed and she continued, "If I hadn't shown your musical talents to the masters, they wouldn't have made you play for the family, and you would have kept your childhood at the very least for a few more years." This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Com, however, because I showed the masters your talents, they adopted you and essentially made you into a slave whose only purpose in life was to play music for the family, and it's entirely my fault that you had to sacrifice your childhood, yourself, with nothing in return. You earned the Yu family countless fame and wealth, but what did you get in return? Not only did you lose your ability to see at a young age, but you also lost your ability to move shortly after. And now, a few years later, even the family that you supported and helped rise to the peak of the music world abandoned you. Furthermore, I even stopped visiting you because of this guilt, as I could not bear seeing the young master in such a condition. I know that there's nothing I can say or do that will get rid of this sin, nor do I expect to be forgiven, but please, even if you hate me, do not blame Meixiu for any of this. She's an innocent girl who did her best at a very young age, even if I scolded her a dozen times a day just so she could be by your side when I could not. If you have to hate someone, hate me who brought you into the Yu family." Tears flowed from Meifeng's eyes as she cried in silence since she didn't want Yuan to realize that she was crying. After a moment of silence, Yuan spoke in a soft voice, "Miss Meifeng, I don't blame you for any of this, much less hate you. There's no way I can hate you. After all, if not for you, I would have never met my sister Yu Rou, Meixiu and many others. And even if you didn't tell the Yu family about me, they would have still learned about me sooner or later since that video was widespread. While I do blame someone for this, it's definitely not you. As for my childhood, even though I had spent most of it playing music for the Yu family, I didn't see it just as playing for the Yu family. Yu Rou, Meixiu, you and everyone who watched me perform. It's because of your smiles when I play the instruments that I play them. Fame? Well, I don't care about any of that. Young master, the most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. The tears that had begun to stop suddenly started flowing again for Meifeng, and she began crying in a suppressed manner as she was unable to resist her tears this time. "Miss Meifeng, this may sound weird, but can you lay your head on my hand?" Yuan suddenly asked her. Meifeng didn't think too much about it and followed his instructions, planting her cheeks on his warm hands. Feeling the warmth of Meifeng's face on his palm, Yuan gritted his teeth and mustered all of his strength and cultivation to move his fingers that were closest to Meifeng's eyes, wiping some of the tears from her soaked eyes, shocking her greatly once she realized what had just happened. "Why, young master, you, just now." Meifeng lifted her head to stare at Yuan, who had a gentle smile on his face at this moment. Chapter 283 The Perfect Solution? Hearing Meifeng's gasping voice, Yuan spoke with a smile on his face. Even if my childhood was taken away from me, at least I still have my future, and I won't give up until I can personally leave this bed with my own strength. Young master, are you really? Meifeng almost couldn't believe what had just happened. Did he just move his fingers? Even if it was just slightly, that is a huge improvement and a hopeful sign that he might actually recover in the future. Yes, I am really recovering. But please keep this a secret for now, as I want it to be a surprise for Meixiu and Yu Rou. Yuan said in a low voice. I will keep it a secret. I won't tell a single soul, even if it's the last thing I do, I promise. Meifeng nodded her head with excitement, causing the tears on her face to drop faster. After spending a few minutes wiping her tears and calming down, Meifeng spoke. Young master, what do you plan on doing now that you're no longer part of the Yu family? While you're definitely recovering, it's going to be difficult without the Yu family's support and resources. And she continued, if you need money, just let me know and I'll do my best to support you. It's okay, Miss Meifeng. I already have a plan. However, I am worried about one thing. What are you worried about, young master? Is there anything I can do to help? I don't know if you can help or not, but I am worried that Meixiu might get in trouble if the Yu family learns that she's helping me, which might affect you as well, and I don't want that to happen. Do you know of any solutions? Yuan asked her. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. I see. To Yuan's surprise, Meifeng actually began chuckling at his question, and he wondered if had said something funny. My dear young master, I have the perfect solution for that. One that won't cause any trouble for Meixiu even if the masters find out, Meifeng said a moment later. Really? Yuan reacted with excitement. What could this solution possibly be? It sounded too good to be true. Yes, I would never lie to you, young master. Anyways, the solution to all of this is to have Meixiu leave the Yu family, so even if she decides to work for you, they cannot complain about it. Meifeng said, immediately leaving Yuan speechless. And Meixiu leaving the Yu family? I don't think I can be that selfish, taking Meixiu away from Yu Rou. And what about Meixiu? What if she doesn't want to do that and I won't force her either? Yuan quickly said. You don't have to worry about any of that, young master. In the first place, Meixiu was trained to become your caretaker, and lastly, she has already agreed to leave the Yu family to be by your side. Meifeng finally revealed to him the situation. Wait, what? Meixiu decided to leave the Yu family? What about Yu Rou? Yuan mumbled in a shocked voice. Indeed, Meixiu has already left the Yu family. I will be notifying the masters later today. As for the young lady, she also agreed with this, even urging Meixiu to leave the family. Meifeng said. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience. I don't know what to say really. Yuan sighed and he continued, I just don't want to burden Meixiu any more than I already am. A burden, huh? Meifeng pondered for a moment before speaking again. How about this, young master? Let's ask Meixiu what she thinks. Meifeng then stood up from her kneeling position and took a moment to fix her appearance before going outside to call for Meixiu. Come here, Meixiu. The young master would like to speak with you. Meifeng said to her, who was standing near the entrance of the apartment. Once they were inside Yuan's room together, Meifeng spoke. Meixiu, the young master is worried that he might be a burden to you. Tell him the truth. Meixiu nodded her head before speaking. I enjoy taking care of the young master, and I do not see the young master as a burden. There you have it, young master. Meixiu herself has spoken. If you still doubt it, you're going to hurt Meixiu's feelings. I see. Yuan mumbled in a somewhat dazed voice. Anyways, Meixiu will no longer be part of the Yu family, and she will be your caretaker starting today. Meifeng said before turning to look at Meixiu. As for school, if you wish to continue attending school, then I will try to work something out. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Meixiu nodded her head. Once everything was settled, Meifeng looked at her watch and said, I don't have much time left here, but before I leave, I need to make sure that you haven't forgotten your training and that you're taking care of the young master properly. Therefore, you're going to show me how you take care of the young master right now. Right now? But what am I supposed to do? The young master already ate breakfast. Meifeng stood still for a moment before moving to wipe Yuan's forehead with her finger. She then said, Look, the young master is sweating. I want you to change his clothes and while you're at it, wash his body. Meixiu's eyes widened after hearing her mother's words. While she doesn't mind changing Yuan's clothes, washing Yuan's body in front of her mother is an entirely different story, especially if the last incident were to repeat itself. Why are you hesitating? If you're not going to take care of the young master properly, I won't hesitate to replace you. Meixiu swallowed nervously, but she didn't dare to refuse her mother. Therefore she could only nod her head. Thus, Meixiu began removing Yuan's clothes whilst Meifeng stood in the background and silently watched her every movement. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. This reminded Meixiu of her childhood when she was still in training, and just like currently, her mother would watch her from a distance, calling out on every minor mistake she makes. Chapter 284. Does it feel good? Meixiu, why are you removing the young master's clothes now? Meifeng suddenly stopped Meixiu before she could even remove Yuan's shirt. Seeing Meixiu's puzzled expression, Meifeng said in a strict voice, "Look around, do you see anything to carry the young master with? Or did you plan on letting the young master lie on the bed naked and wait until you're prepared? What if the young master catches a cold because of that?" Meixiu's eyes widened after realizing her fault, and she immediately stopped removing Yuan's clothes to prepare the wheelchair. "I apologize, young master," Meixiu said to him afterward. "Don't worry about it, Meixiu," Yuan said. However, Meifeng said, "The young master may forgive you, but I won't be as forgiving as your mother and trainer." Sometime later, after she prepared the wheelchair, Meixiu picked up Yuan and carefully placed him onto the wheelchair while he was fully clothed. Once Yuan was seated securely on the wheelchair, Meixiu pushed him into the bathroom, where she proceeded to remove Yuan's clothes. Meifeng didn't say anything about this, but that's mostly because her attention was distracted by Yuan's refined body. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. How can someone who hasn't moved a muscle for so many years have such a refined body? Meifeng wondered to herself. While Meifeng stared at Yuan's naked body with a dazed look on her face, Meixiu turned on the water for the showerhead and began rinsing Yuan's body once she checked the temperature. "Let me check the temperature as well," Meifeng suddenly said. Meixiu nodded, handing the showerhead to her mother. After feeling the temperature of the water for a moment, Meifeng handed the showerhead back to Meixiu without saying anything, which meant she has no complaints most of the time. After rinsing Yuan's body, Meixiu squeezed some body wash onto a sponge and prepared to scrub Yuan's body. However, Meifeng quickly stopped her and said, "Stop right there, Meixiu. What's that in your hands?" "A sponge?" Meixiu responded in a puzzled voice. "And you plan on washing the young master's fragile body with a sponge? Use your hands," Meifeng said to her. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meixiu swallowed nervously before nodding her head and tossing the sponge to the side. She began scrubbing Yuan's body with her bare hands shortly after, feeling surprised once she realized just how strong Yuan's body was. A few minutes later, after washing Yuan's body and legs, Meixiu reached the area she feared the most, especially since her mother was still watching. After swallowing nervously, Meixiu took a deep breath and began washing the final area with shaky hands. Of course, Meifeng didn't miss this, but she remained silent. Meifeng raised her eyebrows when a certain something on Yuan raised as well. Since he can move his limbs to a certain extent, it's safe to assume that he can feel again as well, right? Meifeng wondered to herself after seeing Yuan's wondrous reaction. "Young master, how are you feeling right now? Does it feel good?" Meifeng suddenly asked him, shocking Meixiu to the point where she stopped moving to stare at her with wide eyes. "What do you mean by that, Miss Meifeng?" Yuan asked her in a genuinely puzzled voice. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience. Meifeng narrowed her eyes and pondered, so it's just his Buddhist natural reaction, huh? Or maybe he just doesn't understand it? Nobody taught him about that kind of stuff after all. "Never mind, young master, it was just a misunderstanding," Meifeng said a moment later before looking at Meixiu. "Why did you stop? Hurry up and continue washing the young master or he'll catch a cold," she continued. Meixiu nodded her head with a dazed look on her face, and she continued washing Yuan's body. "Slow down. What if you damage it? That area is worth more than you can possibly fathom, Meixiu," Meifeng said to Meixiu when she noticed Meixiu's rushing movements. "I'm sorry," Meixiu said. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to the young master." "I'm sorry, young master." Yuan didn't know what they were talking about or why Meixiu was apologizing, so he responded casually, "Don't worry about it." The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. After taking another minute to wash Yuan's precious area, Meixiu finally rinsed his soapy body with warm water before quickly drying him off with a small towel. A few moments later they returned to Yuan's room. Meixiu placed a blanket on the bed and placed Yuan on it before wiping the rest of his body. Once Yuan was fully clean and dried, Meixiu helped Yuan into a new set of clothes. However, just as Meixiu prepared to comb Yuan's hair with a brush, her mother interrupted and said, "I will brush the young master's hair." Meixiu didn't refuse and passed the brush to her, and Meifeng began brushing Yuan's long hair gently and professionally. "Thank you, Meixiu, Miss Meifeng. Words cannot describe my gratitude for your hard work," Yuan said to them afterward. "Although we appreciate your feelings, we're not doing this for your gratitude, young master." Meifeng quickly responded. "Even if that's the case, it won't change my feelings. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience." A few more minutes later, Meifeng's phone began ringing. "It's my alarm, which means it's about time for me to leave. Although my visit today was shorter than I'd hoped, I will definitely return in the future to make sure everything is fine, young master," Meifeng said as she laid Yuan back onto the bed. "Okay." After Meifeng left the apartment and going downstairs to where her car was parked, Meifeng looked at Meixiu and said, "Meixiu, your dream, don't give up hope." Meixiu's eyes immediately widened and she asked in a mumbling voice, What do you mean by that, mother?" However, Meifeng dodged her question and said with a rare smile on her face, "Keep working hard and you'll definitely be rewarded in the future." And before Meixiu could say anything else, Meifeng entered the car and closed the door before driving away. After standing around for a few moments, Meixiu went back upstairs. "Are you ready to play with me, Meixiu?" Yuan asked her after she returned. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience. Just a minute, young master. I promised the young lady that I'd call her when I come back so she could talk to you, Meixiu said to him as she retrieved her phone and called Yu Rou. Chapter 285 Phone Call. Young master? Miss Meifeng is no longer here. You can call me Yuan again, Yuan said to Meixiu. All right. Meixiu realized that she'd subconsciously reverted back to her old ways of addressing him after her mother's unexpected visit. After calling Yu Rou's cell phone, Meixiu waited for her to answer. 1.5 rings later, Yu Rou picked up the phone and said, Hello? Meixiu. Are you back at Brother Tian's place right now? Yes, young Sister Rou. I am with him right now, Meixiu responded. Great. Can you pass the phone to him? You can even turn on the speaker. Meixiu then turned on the speaker before placing the phone a few inches beside Yuan's head. Hello? Can you hear me? Yu Rou's voice resounded on the speaker. I can hear you, Yu Rou, Yuan said. Phew. It feels like forever since I last heard your voice. And I'm sorry that I didn't call you early, Brother Tian. Even though I cannot see you, the thought of calling you never entered my mind for some reason. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Don't worry about it. Is Miss Meifeng still there? No, she just left. I see. Then I will assume that she'd already told you everything regarding Meixiu's situation. That's right. Miss Meifeng told me everything. But are you sure about this, Yu Rou? What about your caretaker? Will you be fine alone? Are you underestimating me, brother? Did you forget that it was me who took care of you for the last couple of years? I think I can handle myself just fine, Yu Rou said in a prideful voice. I guess you're right, Yu Rou. I'm sorry for doubting you. I just wanted to make sure. Don't worry about it. Anyways, I promise Xue Jiye that I will play in a bit, so let's get to the topic. After taking a deep breath, Yu Rou said, Dr. Wang called me last night and he said that he'll be visiting you later this afternoon. I gave him your address, so he should be there soon. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Dr. Wang? I understand, Yuan said. Next, let's talk about your bank account. I have created another bank account for you and Meixiu, so you'll both have access to it. As for the account that will be selling the items, I will send the information to Meixiu after this call. Meixiu, make sure you follow the instructions. Though, it's probably going to be impossible to completely hide Brother Tian's identity since he's selling a divine-grade treasure, something only player Yuan would have at this moment, especially when it's a Zither and everybody knows that he'd participated in a Zither competition. I understand, Meixiu said. Anyways, this is all I have for now. They'll call you tomorrow morning again, Brother Tian and Meixiu, Yu Rou said to them before hanging up the phone. Now let's. Just as Yuan opened his mouth to speak, Meixiu's cell phone began ringing again. Did you forget something? Meixiu asked Yu Rou, who called back for some reason. Right, I almost forgot to tell you that your stuff has been packed and it will be shipped to your place tomorrow. Bye. Yu Rou said before hanging up again. For more, visit lightnovelpub.com. Anyways, what should we do now? I wanted to play with you when you returned, but Dr. Wang will be arriving soon. Yuan sighed. It's okay, Yuan. Now that I have left the Yu family in school, I can stay home all day and play whenever you want. Meixiu said to him. You don't plan on going to school? Yuan asked her in a surprised voice. I don't know yet, but I certainly don't have the funds to go to school since the Yu family won't be supporting me once they learn of my leave. If it's money you need, once we sell the divine rank treasure, we should have more than enough to pay for your school. Yuan said. The money from the game? Meixiu mumbled. Don't you want to go to school, Meixiu? You'll still get to see Yu Rou if you do. Yuan asked her. After pondering for a moment, Meixiu said, I don't really want to go to school if I am being honest. It's a musical school filled with talented musicians, but I can't even play a single instrument, making me feel out of place. And while there are classes not related to music, I learned these things years ago when I was a child. The only reason I went to school was because of Sister Rou. If you don't want to go to school, there is really nothing I can do. Since that's the case, let's play Cultivation online together until you find something you want to do. Yuan said to her after a moment of silence. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Okay. Meixiu nodded. Half an hour later, Dr. Wang appeared before their doorsteps and knocked on the door. Oh Meixiu. I guess this is the right place since you're here. Dr. Wang greeted her with a smile. May I come inside the apartment and see the young master? Dr. Wang then asked. Meixiu nodded. Young master, how are you feeling? Dr. Wang asked after entering his room. Dr. Wang, you can stop addressing me as young master now that I am no longer with the Yu family, Yuan said to him. But I have been calling you young master for almost 10 years now. It's going to be awkward for me to suddenly change it. I guess whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Yuan then said. Visit lightnovelpub.com for a better experience. Thank you, young master. Anyways, I have heard about your situation from the young lady and I really don't know what to say. Dr. Wang sighed, his gaze on Yuan a pitiful one. The Yu family, what are they thinking, disowning their own son, not to mention the condition you're in? I have been speechless ever since I learned about it. When I told my granddaughter about it, she even bawled her eyes out for an hour straight. Dr. Wang shook his head. After all, what kind of parents would throw away their disabled son out like trash because he didn't want to work for them? Chapter 286 Minimal Price. Don't worry, young master. Even if the Yu family abandoned you, I will never abandon my patients. Dr. Wang said in a sincere voice. Thank you, Dr. Wang, but just your feelings are enough, Yuan said to him after hearing his words. Young master, you do not have a choice in this. I had sworn to myself many years ago that I will never leave my patients' side until they're healed or take their very last breath trying. Dr. Wang said in a stern voice. And he continued, even though I won't get a penny out of the Yu family by doing this, it has never been about the money. Your fans, we all want to see your recovery and await the day you can stand on the stage again with an instrument by your side. Of course, now that you are no longer with the Yu family, you won't need to play the instrument. However, I still hope for that day. Yuan opened his mouth but realized he was left speechless by Dr. Wang's words. You don't have to say anything, young master. Furthermore, I will still do your monthly checkup at the hospital like always and you won't have to pay a single penny for it. Dr. Wang said. No, I cannot let you do that, Dr. Wang. I will pay you for the treatments. Yuan quickly said. No offense, young master, but where are you going to get the fund? Unless your parents left you a fortune before disowning you, I cannot see how you'll be able to afford it. I may not have the money now, but I will definitely have it soon. Dr. Wang raised his eyebrows after hearing Yuan's confident voice, and he said in a defeated voice, I understand, but I won't ask you for it. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub.com. Sometime later, Dr. Wang began his checkup on Yuan. Young master, your muscles have gotten more robust and refined since I last saw you, again? Dr. Wang said to him in a voice of disbelief afterward, as he has never seen anything like this before despite decades of experience in the field. What exactly is Yuan's body made of that allows him to grow such a refined body just from eating nothing but soup every day when even normal, functioning people would require a healthy diet and continuous exercise to maintain it, much less obtain it? Just like his unknown illness, his physique is a phenomenon of its own. After putting away his tools, Dr. Wang asked, Young master, how has your appetite been lately? Are 3 bowls of soup enough, or do you think we should increase it? Dr. Wang also wanted to see if increasing his food intake would help strengthen his body even more. I think I can handle 4, even 5 bowls of soup now. Meixiu, what do you think? Is that too much for you? Yuan asked her since she's the one who will be cooking it. It's okay. I can handle it, Meixiu said. Then let's try 4 bowls of soup for 1 week to see if you can handle 5. Dr. Wang said. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. I understand, Yuan said. Anyways, as always, your body is perfectly healthy, young master. But if anything ever happens or you feel even the slightest discomfort, call my phone immediately. I will. Thank you again, Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang left the apartment shortly after. Yuan, before we play, let me look at the information Sister Rose sent me so I know how to sell the treasure, Meixiu said to him after locking the door. Okay. I will wait for you inside the game. You're in the backyard of my living quarters, right? Yes. All right. I'll see you inside the game, Yuan said to her before going inside the game. After helping Yuan log into the game, Meixiu went into her room and pulled out a thin laptop that she uses mostly for work. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. Once she found Yu Rou's message in the form of an email, Meixiu began reading about the website and how the place functions. The website is called CO Player Auctions. The account's information is, in order to sell an item you must, once you submit your item, after they confirm the item in-game, make sure you use a VPN when you're on the website just in case people want to track you down. The bank information is, Meixiu read through the message multiple times just in case she missed anything before going to the website CO Player Auctions. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience on the front page. After logging into a VPN and the account Yu Rou provided for her, Meixiu clicked on the large cell that was right next to buy and trade and proceeded to type the information that Yuan had given her right before entering the game. Type, auction, item name, frozen jade zither, grade, divine, quality, low, type of treasure, instrument, continent, Eastern continent, time limit, 7 days, minimal price. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. Meixiu stopped at the minimal price since she was never given a number, and she pondered how much a divine grade treasure would be worth before giving up and searching the site for comparison. Of course, nobody was selling anything even close to divine grade, with the vast majority of them selling common items and spirit grade treasures. These people are selling spirit grade treasures for thousands of dollars? Meixiu's eyes widened with surprise when she saw the players asking for thousands of dollars for a single spirit grade treasure. However, even more shocking was the auction place where there were treasures being sold for tens of thousands of dollars. After looking around the website for a couple of minutes, the highest grade of treasure she could find was an Earth grade treasure that was being auctioned for a whopping $500,000, $500,000. Earth grade. According to Yuan, that's 2 grades below the divine grade, yet it's already being sold at such an astronomical price. After pondering for some time, Meixiu finally decided on a price and typed it into the website. Minimal price, 100 million. One normally wouldn't dare to put such an astronomical number price tag, fearing that nobody would bid, but Meixiu was used to seeing big numbers from working with the Yu family, hence why she clicked send for review without hesitation. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. Com. Chapter 287 Fake Request. A few seconds after Meixiu sent her auction request through the website, a staff member saw her request due to the request being tagged urgent because of the information Meixiu had put in. What do we have here? What? Divine grade treasure? The staff's initial thoughts after seeing Meixiu's auction request was that it must have been done by a troll, since nobody has sold a treasure higher than Earth grade since the game went online. However, no matter how ridiculous the request seemed, it was his job to look through it. A divine grade zither. An instrument. Eastern continent. Minimal price. 100 million. The staff's eyes bulged at the ridiculous price. However, if this was truly a divine grade treasure, that amount of money would be more justified. This request is obviously a troll, yet I am somehow hesitant to decline it for some reason. The staff was feeling perplexed about this situation. This account is not only an anonymous account but also a new one, and it's selling a divine grade treasure that no player would have at this stage of the game. No, there's actually one person who could possibly have a divine grade treasure, player Yuan. However, would he really sell his divine grade treasure so soon after getting it? Even if it's just an instrument, one wouldn't sell such a treasure unless they have something even more valuable. People say he's rich since he isn't swayed by the countless offers to reveal his identity, so he doesn't need the money. Yet here he is selling a divine-grade treasure. Yeah, right. Despite his suspicion that the request was fake, the staff didn't decline it immediately and sent a note to the anonymous requester. If you really have a divine-grade treasure for sale, you wouldn't mind depositing $10,000 first as a precaution if it turns out to be fake and a waste of our time, right? Once we determine that you really have a divine-grade treasure, we will not only return the $10,000 but even double it. If you don't respond within 24 hours, we will deem this request to be fake and delete it as well as ban your account. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Meixiu received a notification just as she prepared to close her laptop. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. After reading the staff's note, Meixiu responded with a single word. Okay. Ding. The staff responded half a minute later with the instructions. Meixiu followed the staff's instructions and deposited $10,000 on the site without hesitation. I have confirmed your deposit. Please tell us the city closest to your location so we can estimate how long it'll take for the nearest staff member to arrive for a meeting. The staff behind the computer typed this sentence with trembling hands since he didn't expect this supposed troll account to immediately deposit $10,000 without hesitation. Either this troll has a lot of money and is willing to spend $10,000 to waste our time, or he's the real deal. The staff swallowed nervously as he pressed enter to send the message to Meixiu. Ding. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. I will let you know the location later. Since Meixiu doesn't know anything about the game nor its location, she couldn't give the staff a location until she speaks with Yuan. However, the staff member responding to Meixiu was shaking behind the desk in nervousness. Later? Why the hell are you making me wait? He couldn't help but curse out loud, causing his coworkers to look at him. What are you shouting about? They asked him. Come look at this. The staff pointed at his screen. The workers gathered around him and read his conversation with Meixiu. What the? Divine-grade treasure? Is this for real? Fuck. This must either be a troll or player Yuan. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. If this is a troll, he's one rich troll to spend $10,000 just to waste our time. Right? I was thinking the same. The staff said. But what if it's real? Then this auction will become the biggest auction on our website to date, even if we include the auctions from the old games. Too bad we won't know until he gives us a location and we meet to confirm the treasure. Should we notify the headquarters or the higher-up about this? Not until we verify the treasure. While the staff waited nervously for Meixiu to give them the location, Meixiu herself laid on the bed with the helmet on her head. However, she didn't immediately enter Cultivation online. Instead, she laid there with a nervous expression on her face. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. I am going to see Yuan. And he's going to be completely healthy inside the game. Meixiu swallowed nervously at this thought. After lying there for a couple of minutes, Meixiu pressed the power button on the side of the helmet and entered Cultivation online. Meanwhile, inside the game, Yuan said to Feng Yuxiang the moment he entered the game. Feng, come out. They'll feed you my blood now. Feng Yuxiang immediately appeared before him with her eyes glistening with anticipation. Yuan retrieved the starry abyss and quickly slid an opening on his finger. Here you. Before Yuan could even finish his sentence, Feng Yuxiang threw herself at him and immediately began sucking his finger like she was a vampire starved of blood. Xiaohua also appeared just in case Feng Yuxiang wouldn't be able to stop sucking Yuan's blood by herself. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. How refreshing. Feng Yuxiang stopped sucking a few minutes later, releasing a satisfied sigh afterward. Are you okay, young master? Should I stop now? Feng Yuxiang looked at him with her eyes glowing a beautiful golden color. I'm okay. You can drink some more. Yuan nodded. Thank you, young master. Feng Yuxiang did not hesitate to place Yuan's finger back into her mouth and continued sucking his blood. A few more minutes later, to Yuan's surprise, Feng Yuxiang's hair suddenly changed colors, turning scarlet red with a fiery feeling to it. Feng Yuxiang released Yuan's finger from her mouth after another moment, completely oblivious to the changes in her appearance. Chapter 288 Meeting Meixiu. Feng, your hair. Yuan pointed at her scarlet hair with his finger that was still wet with Feng Yuxiang's saliva. What about my hair? Feng Yuxiang looked at her hair. What? It turned red. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed in a surprised voice after realizing this, almost like it was completely unexpected. Is that supposed to happen? Yuan asked her a moment later. Yes. This means your blood is really working and suppressing the curse on me. Feng Yuxiang nodded her head. What about your powers, Phoenix? Xiaohua asked her. Unfortunately, it's still completely sealed. However, I have no doubt that if I continue sucking the young master's blood, my curse will sooner or later disappear entirely. I have lived over 10,000 years like this. A few more years, even a few decades won't affect me. Feng Yuxiang spoke with enthusiasm in her tone. Once Feng Yuxiang stopped sucking Yuan's blood for a minute, the small opening on his finger closed by itself within seconds. As for Feng Yuxiang, her golden eyes and scarlet hair also returned to normal shortly after. All right. Meixiu will be joining us today, Yuan said to them. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub, Meixiu? Really? Feng Yuxiang seemed happy to see Meixiu again. Yes, she should be here any minute. Yuan suddenly stopped speaking when he noticed a familiar presence appear in his backyard out of the blue. Even though he doesn't have his divine sense activated, after becoming a spirit master, he gained the ability to naturally detect others' presence as long as they were close enough and he wasn't too distracted. I think that's her, Yuan said in an excited voice before he stood up and walked towards the backyard. Once he reached the door that led to the backyard, Yuan took a deep breath and opened the door. Meanwhile, Meixiu, who had just entered the game, turned around when she heard some noises coming from behind her. You are? Meixiu's eyes widened with shock when she saw the handsome young man standing at the open door a few meters away from her. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. Although his appearance slightly differed from his body in the real world, Meixiu could instantly tell that she was looking at Yuan at glance. Even though it has been at least a decade since she last saw him in such a perfect and healthy appearance, Meixiu would never forget Yuan's lively face and unique charisma, especially his clear eyes that radiated with innocence. Meanwhile, in Yuan's eyes, other than her maid uniform and height, Meixiu looked almost no different from how he remembered her. Long silky black hair, a neatly cut and even bang crystal clear black eyes, and her unique characteristic, a naturally bored-looking face. Of course, she was much taller than the child from back then, not to mention her beautiful face that would not lose to even the top beauties in the Dragon Essence Temple such as Shen Wuhan or Fei Yuyan, perhaps even beating them in certain criteria. Yuan? Meixiu mumbled his name in a dazed voice. It's been a while, Meixiu. You're even taller than Yu Rou now. Yuan slowly approached her with a handsome smile on his face. Almost as though she didn't know what to do or how to react, Meixiu remained standing there like a frozen statue until Yuan was practically standing in front of her. I have always wanted to do this. Visit Light Novel Pub? For a better experience. Yuan suddenly opened his arms wide and embraced Meixiu before speaking in a gentle voice. Thank you, Meixiu, for taking care of Yu Rou and me for all these years. Yuan? Two streams of glistening tears suddenly appeared on Meixiu's beautiful face, quickly staining Yuan's shoulders. Meixiu slowly lifted her arms a moment later before returning Yuan's hug, yet she didn't say anything, only embracing Yuan in silence. They seem very close with each other. Feng Yuxiang mumbled in a mosquito-like voice as she peeked her head from inside the house and watched them hug each other. Xiaohua also did the same without moving her mouth, watching their reunion in silence. Sometime later, Yuan removed his arms from her and stepped back. Meixiu, let me introduce you to my friends first, Yuan said to her before turning around to look at the open door. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. Xiaohua Feng, come here, he said to them. A few moments later, the two of them left the house and stood beside Yuan. You already know her, but this is Feng Yuxiang, also known as Feng, and she's a phoenix. Yuan pointed to Feng and said. He then pointed to Xiaohua and said, This is Xiaohua, my first friend in this world, and she's like another little sister to me. Xiaohua nodded her head at Meixiu after the introduction. Now let me introduce you to Meixiu, Yuan said, and he continued, Xiaohua Feng, this is Meixiu, who is like a family member to me since we've always been near each other since childhood. And just like Yu Rou, she has helped me tremendously throughout the years. It wouldn't be an exaggeration even if I said that I wouldn't be alive now if it were not for the two of them and their support for me. Alongside Yu Rou, she's one of the most important people in my life. I've said this before, but any friends of the young master are also a friend of mine. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to come to me for help. Feng Yuxiang said to Meixiu. Xiaohua too. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. It's nice to meet all of you. Meixiu nodded. And then she focused her gaze on Yuan. Especially you, Yuan. A rare smile appeared on Meixiu's face as she stared at his handsome face. Sometime later, they returned to the house and took a seat on the couches in the living room. Let me brew some tea for us, Feng Yuxiang said to them before going to the kitchen. Meanwhile, Yuan began telling Meixiu about his experience in cultivation, starting from the beginning when he first met with Xiaohua to how he got this point. Chapter 289 Longqin City? So during the inner court disciple examination, I fought the Jade Frog for the second time and I, young master, am back with the tea. Feng Yuxiang returned to the living room an hour after she left to make tea, but since Yuan was too absorbed in telling Meixiu his experience with the game, he didn't notice how much time had passed. It was the same for Meixiu, who was simply too absorbed in Yuan's story and his liveliness that made her forget about the passage of time. Thank you, Feng, Yuan said to her as she poured the tea for them. Ichem? What kind of tea is this? It's all red. Yuan asked her after picking up the teacup and noticing the red water that resembled watered-down blood. It's tea made from a valuable type of herb that can boost one's mental strength. People call it crimson lotus tea, Feng Yuxiang said. Yuan proceeded to take a sip of this crimson lotus tea after blowing it a few times. Oh, it's sweet. Yuan mumbled in a surprised voice afterward, and he chugged the entire cup a moment later. Ding. You have gained the following effect from consuming crimson lotus tea. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. Mental strength plus 1,500. Meixiu also gained the same stats after drinking the tea. Feng, I drank a tea called Phoenix Blossom Tea before and it increased my soul strength. Is there a limit to how much benefit one can obtain from drinking tea or consuming treasures in general? Yuan asked her afterward. Feng Yuxiang nodded. Of course there is a limit, young master. If one can obtain strength from drinking the same tea every day, there wouldn't be so many cultivators risking their lives in the cultivation world. When it comes to treasures that can be consumed, especially teas, there is a limit to how much benefit one can gain before their body stops benefiting from that specific treasure no matter how much more they consume. Most treasures will only work once before one can no longer benefit from them. As for treasures that can benefit you multiple times, they are too few and far between. Feng Yuxiang explained to him. I see. Yuan mumbled. Anyways, I would still drink this tea even if I don't gain anything from it. Yuan extended his cup and continued, Can I get another cup? Of course you can. Feng Yuxiang poured him another cup. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Sometime later, Meixiu said, Yuan, I have created an auction request for the frozen jade Zither, but it still needs to be verified. The staff asked me to give them my closest city so they can meet up and look at the treasure. Yuan nodded and turned to ask Feng Yuxiang, Where's the nearest city? That would be Longqin City, which was obviously named after the Dragon Essence Temple's founder. And it's about 20 miles from this place. Feng Yuxiang said. I see. Since there's still some time left before the Mystic Realm, let's try to sell the treasure. Yuan said to Meixiu. Wait a second, young master. What are you trying to sell? The frozen jade Zither? Feng Yuxiang asked him. Yuan nodded. That's right. I don't really have a need for it since I already have the soul-ensnaring Zither. What? Do you need money for something? Yes. If you want, I can give you some. Feng Yuxiang said, even reaching for her spatial ring. Updated from Light Novel Pub. It's fine, Feng. I can just sell the Zither. And you should already know by now that I don't like having everything handed to me without giving any effort myself. I understand. Feng Yuxiang nodded in a somewhat dejected manner. I need to let the seniors know that he'll be leaving the sect before I actually leave. A few moments later, Yuan called Elder Xian with his communication jade slip. Hello? Disciple Yuan? Senior Xian, I would like to leave the sect for a bit. Leaving the sect? Where are you going? The Mystic Realm is just 3 days away. I have some business at Longqin City with my friend. It shouldn't take long, probably a couple of hours. Oh, if it's just Longqin City, go ahead. I would accompany you, but I am extremely busy right now and the other elders as well, so you'll have to go alone. The Dragon Essence Temple is also closely associated with Longqin City, so there shouldn't be any problems if you go there, especially if you're wearing the sect's uniform. However, if anything happens, don't be afraid to use the life-saving treasures we gave you. Elder Xian said to him. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Come, I understand. Thank you, Senior Xian. Stay safe. After hanging up, Yuan said to Meixiu, you can tell them to meet us in Longqin City. Meixiu nodded her head before logging off and going to her laptop. Longqin City. Ding. A response quickly returned 10 seconds later. We can be at the northern gates within half an hour. Are you able to make it there within that time? Yes. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Then we will see you there in half an hour. I'm going online to meet the client. The staff said after closing the chat. Do you want us to come with you just in case? No, I can do this by myself. I'm not going to let you guys take my credits. I bet you it's going to be a troll anyways. You can keep the credits. If you meet player Yuan, don't forget to ask for his autograph. Despite his coworkers laughing at him, the man who accepted Meixiu's auction request went to the gaming room that was located at the same building he worked at. Luckily for me, I didn't leave Longqin City after failing to learn more about player Yuan at the Dragon Essence Temple. The man sighed to himself before lying on one of the 10 available beds there and wearing the helmet on his head. Let's hope this won't be a waste of time. He sighed before pressing the power button and entering the game. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Chapter 290 Verifying the Treasure. After returning to the game, Meixiu told Yuan about the situation. The northern entrance at Longqin City in 30 minutes, We can arrive in a few minutes if we fly there. Yuan nodded. However, since we're going to be meeting with a player, we should hide our identities. Yuan turned to look at Xiaohua and asked her, Xiaohua, do you have another mask like the Black Jade mask to give to Meixiu? Xiaohua shook her head. If you need a mask, I have one, young master. Feng Yuxiang said. Really? Do you think we can borrow it for now? Feng Yuxiang nodded and pulled out a red mask from her spatial ring a moment later. Unlike the Black Jade mask that was large enough to cover one's face, this mask only covered the upper half of one's face, leaving the chin and mouth exposed. Furthermore, it was red in color with some gold outlines. You can keep it. I tried selling it years ago but eventually gave up and tossed it with the other things I couldn't sell. Feng Yuxiang handed it to Meixiu in a casual manner. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. Crimson Mask. Grade, Spirit, Quality, High. Mental Strength Required, 1000. Description. A beautiful red mask that increases your mental defense by 2000. Thank you, Feng. Meixiu accepted the mask. Even though it's a treasure and you don't have any cultivation, you should be able to wear it after consuming the Crimson Lotus tea. Feng Yuxiang said. And she continued, speaking of your cultivation, do you intend on staying as a mortal forever, or are you going to start cultivating soon? Meixiu turned to look at Yuan for help since she didn't know anything about cultivators. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. I think you should become a cultivator, Meixiu. This way you can protect yourself in this world that's full of unreasonable people. Yuan said to her. I will protect you whenever we're together, but there may be times when we're separated. Meixiu nodded. Okay, I will become a cultivator. A few moments later, Yuan retrieved the flying sword and said to Meixiu, I can carry you. Meixiu's eyes widened after hearing Yuan's words. He wants to carry her? Feng Yuxiang suddenly cleared her throat before speaking. If you want, I can carry you instead. Meixiu nodded and said to Yuan in a somewhat bashful voice, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm ready to be carried by you, yet. Yuan didn't understand what she meant by that but nodded his head regardless. I'll leave Meixiu to you, Feng. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience sometime later, Yuan jumped on the flying sword and flew towards the sky with Xiaohua. Feng Yuxiang followed them after carrying Meixiu like before. Xiaohua, you mentioned that some people are able to fly before Spirit Grandmaster. Do you think I can learn to fly now that I am a Spirit Master? Yuan asked her while they flew toward Longqin City slowly. In order to fly, Brother Yuan must learn Qi manifestation to a certain extent, where you release the spiritual energy inside your dantian outside and control the gravity around you. How does one learn Qi manifestation? Is there a technique for it? Yuan asked. No, Qi manifestation is something one must learn by themselves. I see. I will try it later. Yuan nodded. Yuan and the others descended from the sky a few minutes later once they could see Longqin City in the distance. Once they returned to the ground, they walked a few hundred meters until they could see the entrance to the city. Updated from Light Novel Pub. This is the northern entrance, right? Yuan asked Feng Yuxiang. That's correct. Thus, they began waiting for the staff member from the auction site. Xiaohua Feng, can you hide for now? There's a chance the players can use you to identify us. Meixiu suddenly said to them. Oh, Meixiu is right. We're trying to hide our identity. Yuan agreed with Meixiu. Xiaohua and Feng Yuxiang nodded their heads and disappeared by returning to Yuan's body. Wow. Meixiu mumbled in a dazed voice after seeing this scene. About 10 minutes later, they could see a skinny man in his late 20s wearing plain clothes approaching them with a nervous smile on his face. Hello. I am a staff member at CO Player Auctions. Are you the one selling the frozen jade zither? The staff said in a nervous voice, mostly because of the invisible but powerful aura coming from Yuan, who stood there menacingly in the staff's eyes. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. Black Mask. Could it really be? Player Yuan? The staff swallowed nervously at this thought. We are, Meixiu said. Hello, esteemed guests. You can call me Li, and I am here to verify the frozen jade zither legitimacy before we begin the auction. How are you going to verify the treasure? Meixiu then asked. I just need to verify the grade of the treasure. However, before we do that, let's go somewhere more private. There are too many people around here. Yuan and Meixiu then followed this person named Li into the woodland behind them. A few minutes later they stopped. Now if you could please take out the frozen jade zither. I just need to verify the grade and quality to make sure it's real. Also, you can rest assured that I won't touch the treasure until we officially begin the auction with your approval, said Li. Meixiu turned to look at Yuan since he was the one who had the treasure. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. After nodding his head, Yuan retrieved the frozen jade zither from his spatial ring and held it in front of Li. This is. Li felt the chills throughout his body the moment the frozen jade zither appeared, and the atmosphere in that area also became colder. Li narrowed his eyes at the zither. Frozen jade zither. Grade, divine, quality, low, mental strength requirement, 35,000, soul strength requirement, 50,000, description, can create music notes that will freeze one's heart and soul, visit Light Novel Pub, for a better experience, are real. It's really a divine grade treasure. Li subconsciously took a few steps with a shocked expression on his face after seeing the zither stats. Chapter 291. The treasure is real. It's real. Since this divine grade treasure is real, there's a very good chance this person in the black mask is. Li turned to look at Yuan with a shocked face, looking like he'd just received a revelation. Have you verified it? Meixiu suddenly asked him. Why yes, I have. Thank you very much. Li quickly responded in a startled manner. What should we do from this point? Meixiu then asked. Li swallowed heavily and took a deep breath to calm himself down before speaking. Before we continue, I have a few questions for you. The questions of course are optional, so you don't have to answer them if you don't want to. However, it would be in your and the bidder's best interest that they have more information on the treasure. Meixiu nodded her head. Ahem. First and foremost, where did you obtain this treasure? A brief background is fine as well. Li then asked. It was obtained from an event, Yuan responded. What a young voice. Could player Yuan be a youngster? Li cried inwardly after hearing Yuan's voice. Li swallowed nervously and continued to ask. If you don't mind me asking, was it obtained from the Zither competition that occurred recently? The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. Li really wanted to straight out ask Yuan if he was really player Yuan, but due to their anonymous account, such a question would break the terms of service, as anonymous accounts are called anonymous for a reason. With that being said, as long as he doesn't ask questions that directly ask for their identity, it would be fine. Yuan opened his mouth to speak, but Meixiu quickly interrupted. You may move on to the next question. Li nodded and immediately asked the next question without any complaints. Then let's continue to the auction itself. You requested for the minimum bid to start at $100 million, is that correct? Yes, Meixiu said. The time limit for the auction will be 7 days, is that correct? Yes. Do you have any special request for the auction? This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. No. Do you accept trades or do you want money only? Money only. Meixiu answered Li's questions as straightforwardly as possible. Thank you. Now, allow me to explain to you how the auction will proceed since this appears to be your first time working with us. Li said. And he continued, once we get your approval and receive the treasure, we will immediately begin the auction. There is normally a line based on a first-come first-serve rule, but we will make an exception this time and give your treasure priority due to its value. At the end of the auction, the highest bidder will pay the money to the website, which will be transferred to your account after deducting the service fees, which is 10% of the total amount. Once we transfer the money to your account, we will hand over the treasure to the buyer. Do you have any questions so far? Meixiu pondered for a moment before speaking. Are there any assurances for us? What if you take the treasure and run with it? I understand your worries, esteemed guest, and while I personally don't have anything to reassure you, I do hope the website's reputation that has been built upon decades of trust will reassure you to some extent. The most up-to-date novels are published on lightnovelpub.com. Our website, CO Player Auctions, has over 10 million successful transactions since its foundation with millions of dollars transferred every day. In total, our website has earned tens of billions of dollars for the players. Furthermore, all of this was done without a single fraud transaction. While we have been accused of stealing before by people for clout and money, plenty of times at that, we've been proven innocent for every single case. Lee explained their website's history and its trustworthiness. If that's not enough to convince you to trust us, we will even deposit the requested minimal amount, $100 million into your account temporarily. Of course, you won't be able to withdraw it until after the bid. What do you think? After pondering for a moment, Meixiu nodded. Okay. Great. Can you give me about 15 minutes to prepare things? I will log off and approve of the auction as well as notify the higher management so they can transfer the money to your account. Once that's done, I will return for the treasure. Okay. Thank you. Lee logged off a few seconds later. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub.com. Yuan and Meixiu also logged off shortly after. Meanwhile, after logging off, Lee removed the console from his head before rushing out of the room with an ecstatic look on his face. It's real. It's real. It's really real. Ah. Lee laughed out loud as he ran in the hallways, quickly returning to his workroom. Bang. Lee opened the door with force and shouted loudly, "It's real. The treasure is real. I verified it. It's really a divine-grade treasure. And the person selling it was most likely Player Yuan." Everybody in the room stopped whatever they were doing and turned to look at him with dumbfounded expressions on their faces. Wait a second. Are you serious? The auction request is real? One of Lee's co-workers asked him in a trembling voice. Yes. I will explain it later since I need to call upper management ASAP. Lee immediately went to pick up his phone and dialed a number. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub.com. Hello, this is Lee. My staff code is 19X6SE. This call is regarding one of the auction requests I had received recently. Lee proceeded to explain to the upper management about the frozen Jade Zither, which immediately caused a stir within the upper management. Are you sure? That Player Yuan might be selling his divine-grade treasure? Yes, I am fairly certain that was Player Yuan. His appearance and black mask matched the descriptions from those who saw him at the Zither competition. Lee said with confidence in his voice. This is huge news. And this auction, we're going to make sure the entire world knows of it. Don't mess this up, Lee. Your head is on the line here. Yes, sir. Lee said before hanging up and going to his computer to speak with Meixiu through the website. Chapter 292 Announcing the Auction to the World. Hello, this is Lee. I have just spoken with the upper management, and they have agreed to proceed with the auction. $100 million should be deposited into your account within the next few minutes. After sitting in front of her laptop for a couple of minutes after she logged off from, Meixiu received this message from Lee on CO Player Auctions. And just like Lee had promised, $100 million was added to her account's wallet. I have received the money. Meixiu typed. Great, then we may proceed with the auction. Once again, the bid will last for 7 days, and you will receive the money within 48 hours after the auction with the service fees already deducted, which is 10% of the total amount. I understand. Then I will meet you inside the game in 5 minutes to retrieve the treasure from you. Okay. After her message, Meixiu went to explain to Yuan the situation. They have deposited $100 million into our account, but we cannot withdraw it until after the auction. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub.com, that's fine. They returned to a few minutes later and waited for Lee to log in. Once Lee also returned to the game, Yuan handed the frozen Jade Zither to Lee, who immediately tossed it inside his spatial ring. Even though spatial rings are expensive, every staff member working for the website was given one so that they can safely secure the treasures given to them. Thank you for trusting us. We will not disappoint you. The auction will begin tomorrow after we advertise the auction to the world, said Li to them before logging off the game. What should we do now? Meixiu asked Yuan afterward. Want to hang out at Longqin City for the rest of the day? We can eat food and look at stores together. Perhaps we can even look for a cultivation technique for you. Yuan said. Eat food and look at stores? Meixiu mumbled. Isn't this basically a date? She wondered inwardly. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub? After a moment of silence she spoke, but I already have a cultivation technique. It was given to me when I first started. Oh, the basic cultivation technique? I have it as well, but I never used it since I have a better one. And if you have a better cultivation technique, you will be able to cultivate faster. Yuan said. I understand. Meixiu nodded. Feng Yuxiang's voice suddenly resounded. I would give you a cultivation technique, but I don't have any, and as a divine beast we don't really need any cultivation techniques since we absorb the spiritual energy in the air naturally. Of course having one would help, but it won't help me since I cannot increase my cultivation base because of the curse. Xiaohua, what about our cultivation technique? Do you think Meixiu can learn it as well? Yuan then asked her. If Sister Meixiu agrees to help Xiaohua with her legacy, she replied. What do you think, Meixiu? Yuan then asked her. Okay. Meixiu nodded. Great. Thank you, Xiaohua. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience sometime later. Yuan and Meixiu made their way towards Longqin City, and since Yuan was wearing his inner court uniform, the guards allowed them to enter the city without paying any fees, even greeting them with respect. Meanwhile, in the outside world, the world was taken by surprise when CO Player Auctions, the leading market for cultivation online, announced their latest high-profile auction. What? There's going to be a divine-grade treasure being auctioned off later? Impossible. It's real. The website made an official announcement just a few minutes ago. They have also verified the treasure. Heavens! Who could possibly sell a divine-grade treasure at this stage of the game, much less have one? I can only think of Player Yuan when it comes to having divine-grade treasures. Could this treasure be one of Player Yuan's treasures? That's very likely, but the website didn't mention Player Yuan's name, which is odd considering that it would definitely bring more attention to the auction if they attached his name to the auction. Who knows really? We can only wait for more information about this auction. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. While the news spread from the people's mouth, it was also mentioned on the news and the internet, especially Player Yuan's dedicated forums, which blew up with speculations regarding this auction being related to Player Yuan. Player Yuan might have auctioned off his divine-grade treasure. There's a high possibility that this treasure belongs to Player Yuan. The auction will start at a whopping $100 million, becoming one of the most expensive auctions right off the bat. While the internet raged with excitement, the legacy and wealthy families out there began preparing their money for the treasure. What a damn pity this divine-grade treasure is only an instrument. If it was a sword or any other weapon, I wouldn't be so hesitant about joining the auction. Then should we ignore this auction? No, let's still try to buy it. Who knows when such an opportunity might arrive again. However, we won't go all out. Many people had the same sentiment towards this auction since the divine-grade treasure was only an instrument and not an actual weapon. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. However, not every family had the same opinion. In fact, it was the complete opposite for wealthy families with a musical background. In their eyes, the Zither, one of the most popular instruments ever since Player Yuan's debut at the Zither competition, was akin to the Holy Grail, something they must get their hands on. Thus, it was a chaotic scene across the world for most musical families and companies. Meanwhile, at the Yu family, Tang Li slammed the table with an excited expression on her face after hearing about the auction, and she said, "We must get our hands on this divine-grade Zither." Yu Yong nodded his head in agreement and said, "Not only will this benefit our players since most of them use the Zither, but we might even get to know this Player Yuan's identity if we manage to buy it. I will call our accountants right now. We can't let the other families get their hands on this treasure." Tang Li immediately pulled out her cell phone and began calling people. Chapter 293. We should do this more often. After speaking with a dozen accountants, Tang Li closed her phone and said to Yu Yong, "We're ready to bid whenever the auction begins." This is going to be a fierce fight. The other families won't let us obtain the Zither easily since whichever family gets it will have a massive advantage over the other families. Yu Yong nodded. Meanwhile, similar situations played out in the other musical families. We must get our hands on this frozen jade Zither. We cannot let the Yu family get it or our current advantage will instantly disappear. The Yu family may be rich, but their resources are not unlimited, especially not after what happened to their golden goose. Wealthy families around the world prepared their bank for the upcoming auction whilst the common folks waited for the spectacle. Meanwhile, inside in the Dragon Essence Temple, Elder Shan knocked on Fei Yuyan's doors. Master, do you need something? Fei Yuyan greeted her at the door, but she found it unusual that Elder Shan would visit her unannounced. Here, Disciple Yuan asked me to give this to you. Elder Shan extended her hand with a scroll in her grasp. What's this? Fei Yuyan raised her eyebrows as she accepted the scroll. It's the divine rank technique the two of you had obtained at the Zither competition. Apparently he's done with it. Elder Shan explained. Wait, he's done with it already? How long has it been since the competition? A week? Feng Yuxiang mumbled in a dazed voice. He handed it to me a couple of days ago, so it actually took him much shorter than that. Unbelievable. I cannot imagine learning a divine rank technique in such a short time. His comprehension abilities are simply godlike. Fei Yuyan sighed in a defeated voice, realizing that she will never be at Yuan's level. By the way, the last spot for the Mystic Realm. It's Disciple Yuan, isn't it? Fei Yuyan suddenly asked. Is it that obvious? Elder Shan smiled. Of course, she nodded. Don't tell anybody about this though. The core disciples won't be happy if they learn that an inner court disciple had taken their spot, a new disciple who recently joined at that. Elder Shan said. Don't worry, Master. I won't tell anybody. Fei Yuyan promised. Anyways, good luck with the technique. I've got a few more things to do before the Mystic Realm. Thank you, Master. Don't thank me, thank Disciple Yuan the next time you see him. Maybe even a kiss. Elder Shan chuckled. Master, don't make such jokes. It's not funny. The two of us live in different worlds. I don't qualify to be with someone like him. Fei Yuyan sighed in a dejected manner. Elder Shan didn't expect Fei Yuyan to respond so seriously, leaving her speechless. After a moment of awkward silence, Elder Shan said, If you really like him, I don't think it's impossible. You never know, he might even make you his Dao Companion. Dao Companion? Fei Yuyan stared at Elder Shan with wide eyes filled with surprise. Don't underestimate yourself, Disciple Fei. You're one of the 3 graceful fairies, have some more confidence in yourself. And if you don't ask him, how else are you going to find out? I see. Thank you, Master, for your advice. Fei Yuyan nodded. Sometime later, Elder Shan left Fei Yuyan's living quarters. Disciple romance, huh? If only there was someone like Disciple Yuan during my disciple days. Elder Shan returned home with a solemn look on her face. Meanwhile, in Longqin City, Yuan and Meixiu walked side by side as they strolled through the city. Senior disciple, how about some chicken skewers? It's on me. A middle-aged man working by the streets suddenly called out to Disciple Yuan, offering them free food. Yuan immediately nodded, thank you. This is the least I can do for the Dragon Essence Temple that has helped our community a lot. The worker laughed as he handed Yuan 2 sticks of chicken skewers. Here you go. Yuan handed the other chicken skewer to Meixiu. Thank you. Meixiu accepted the chicken skewer. After eating the skewer, Yuan sighed, that chicken skewer made me even more hungry. Do you want to sit down and eat some food? Whatever you want to do, Meixiu responded. Yuan nodded and took her to a random restaurant where they spent the next hour sitting down and eating food. Inside the restaurant, Yuan displayed his amazing eating abilities to Meixiu, who was only slightly surprised by his eating habits. The food in this game, the taste is too realistic. Meixiu was more shocked by how well her taste buds worked inside the game, almost like she was eating real food. Right? This is actually my favorite part about Cultivation Online. I'm only limited to soup outside, but in this world I can eat whatever I want. Yuan said with a bright smile on his face. After they finished eating and Yuan paid the tab, which was given a discount because of his status as an inner court disciple at the Dragon Essence Temple, Yuan and Meixiu continued to wander the city until they eventually found something that would pique their interest and cause them to stop momentarily, almost like 2 lovers on a date. As the sky grew darker, Yuan and Meixiu left the city and flew back to the Dragon Essence Temple with the help of Xiao Hua and Feng Yuxiang. I had fun today, Meixiu. We should definitely do this more often, just spending our days leisurely. Yuan said to her after they returned to his backyard. Meixiu nodded with a slightly rosy face that was hidden by the darkness outside. I had fun too. Anyways, before we log off for the night, let's see if Meixiu can learn heaven's secret art. Yuan said to Xiaohua once they went back into the house. Okay. Xiaohua nodded her small head before taking out her book. After giving Meixiu some instructions, Yuan sat down in the lotus position with Meixiu sitting right beside him. However, before she started, Xiaohua said, "By the way, Sister Meixiu, are you sure you're willing to help Xiaohua with her legacy? Xiaohua can only teach you the technique if you agree." Although she didn't know anything about Xiaohua's legacy, Meixiu nodded her head. A few moments later, Xiaohua began reading her book, quickly filling the room with incomprehensible words, almost like she was mumbling gibberish. Chapter 294 Frozen Jade Zither Auction. An hour after Xiaohua started reading her book, she suddenly closed it and stopped reciting the technique. "What do you think, Meixiu?" Yuan asked her afterward. Meixiu shook her head and said, "I didn't understand a thing." That's completely expected since it normally takes months, even years to learn a cultivation technique at this level. That is unless you're Brother Yuan, of course. Xiaohua said. And she continued, although Xiaohua appreciates Sister Meixiu for agreeing to help Xiaohua with her legacy, Xiaohua thinks you should find a more suitable cultivation technique. Shouldn't you give Meixiu some more time to learn the technique? I think it's still too early for her to give up. Yuan said. However, Xiaohua shook her head and said, Xiaohua can tell. Unlike Brother Yuan, Sister Meixiu was unable to remain focused the entire time. Even if she cannot learn the technique in a few hours like Brother Yuan, she should at least have the ability to remain focused. When one cannot remain focused during a certain cultivation technique, it usually means they are not suited for the cultivation technique, so they won't learn it no matter how long they study it. Feng Yuxiang suddenly jumped in. I also tried to learn the technique but was unable to focus even slightly, so I gave up after a few minutes. Feng Yuxiang shrugged. That's because you're a divine beast. Only human cultivators are able to learn Xiaohua's technique, she said. What kind of cultivation is it, anyway? I'm kind of interested. Feng Yuxiang said. However, Xiaohua shook her head and said, it's a secret. Sorry, Meixiu, but I guess you can only cultivate the basic cultivation technique for now until we find you a more suitable cultivation technique, Yuan said to Meixiu. I don't mind, she said in a calm voice. Sometime later, Yuan and Meixiu logged off the game. After logging off, Meixiu went to cook dinner while Yuan cultivated in his room. Once dinner was served, Meixiu went to sleep. As for Yuan, he spent the entire night cultivating like usual. The following morning, after breakfast, Meixiu took her laptop to Yuan's room and said, the auction will start in a few minutes. How much do you think we'll be able to sell the frozen jade zither for? Yuan asked her. Who knows, but it should be more than enough to support us for a very long time, Meixiu said as she pulled up the website. The first thing that popped up when she entered the website was the words Divine Grade Treasure Auction. Upon clicking this pop-up, she was immediately taken to the auction. Frozen Jade Zither. Grade, Divine, Quality, Low, Type of Treasure, Instrument, Requirements, 35,000 Mental Strength, 50,000 Soul Strength, Description, Obtained from an event, Time Limit, 7 days, Starting Price, 100 million, Minimal Bid, 100,000, Time until auction starts, 1439, Current bidders, 150,241,777. Wow, there are over 150 million people on this page as of this moment, Meixiu mumbled as she watched the number increase by thousands with every passing second. However, despite the massive amount of bidders there, the majority of them were only there to spectate the real bidders fight each other for the first divine-grade treasure ever being sold. Meanwhile, across the world, news outlets and online streamers were all focused on the auction. As the timer approached 0, the anticipation from people around the world only heightened. By the time there was only 1 minute left, the auction had amassed a grand total of 300 million bidders, breaking the website's record by 10 folds, and this number would only increase. 004, 003, 002, 001, midnight, auction begins. The second the auction started, the 100 million starting price suddenly jumped up by a massive $10 million. Ling family has bid 110 million. 110 million? However, not even 10 seconds later the number jumped again. Anonymous has bid 125 million. 125 million. The number continued to grow with every passing minute, and in just 10 short minutes the price for the frozen Jade Zither had reached $200 million. Yu family has bid 200 million. Furthermore, in order to bid in an auction, one must actually have the funds available and ready in their account. The explosive increase shocked the majority of the spectators, but in the eyes of these wealthy families, the fight was just beginning. The website reached a peak of 500 million bidders an hour after the auction started, slowly decreasing once the bidding also slowed down. Lotus family has bid 258 million. Chen family has bid 258,500,000. Dream Slayer has bid 260 million. Anonymous has bid 261 million. It's already at 260 million yuan, Meixiu said to him in a calm voice. While the number may seem astronomical to the average person in Meixiu's eyes who has seen larger numbers, she didn't show too much reaction to it. As for Yuan, who used to earn similar numbers in a month from playing professionally, also didn't show much excitement when he heard the amount. In his mind, he only needed enough money to support himself and Meixiu. I see. Anyways, there are still 7 days. Let's leave it for now. Yuan said. Okay. After closing her laptop, Meixiu helped Yuan enter the game before she went to her own room and entered the game herself. Inside the game, Yuan said to Meixiu, I will be participating in the Mystic Realm in a few days, but we will be leaving the sect sometime today. Do you want to come with me, Meixiu? Meixiu nodded, yes. After all, if she's not with Yuan, she has nowhere else to go, nor was there anything for her to do. Sometime later, Yuan could feel the communication Jade slip in his pocket tremble. Disciple Yuan, please come to the sect master's headquarters. We're going to be leaving the sect in an hour. Elder Xian's voice resounded from the Jade slip. Okay, Yuan replied before leaving his living quarters with Meixiu shortly after. Chapter 295 Dao Companion? Yuan, should I wear my mask as well? Meixiu asked him before leaving the house. All right, I almost forgot. Let's wear our mask just in case. Yuan nodded as he wore the black jade mask. Meixiu followed and wore her crimson mask before following Yuan outside. Disciple Yuan? Where are you going? And who's that beside you? She doesn't look like a disciple. Min Li noticed them and called out to him from her windows. Good morning, Disciple Min. I am heading to the sect master's headquarters right now, said Yuan. Sect master's headquarters? Did you do something again? Most disciples go there only when they're in trouble with the sect master, Min Li said in a slightly worried voice. No, I am not in trouble. I'm meeting with Elder Xian there since we're about to leave the sect for the Mystic Realm. Wait a second. The Mystic Realm? Don't tell me you're going to participate in it? Min Li stared at him with wide eyes, but after she recalled his talents, her shock almost instantly disappeared. That's right. Yuan nodded. I see. Well, good luck, I guess. Min Li was speechless. Oh, and this is my friend Meixiu. See you later, Disciple Min. Yuan left the place shortly after, leaving Min Li standing by the window with a dazed look on her face. That was Min Li, my neighbor and a fellow disciple. She's from a really powerful and influential family from what I heard. Yuan introduced her to Meixiu after they left. Sometime later they arrived at the sect master's headquarters. Knock knock. Yuan knocked on the door loudly after arriving at the doorstep. It's me, Disciple Yuan. The door opened a few moments later and Elder Xian appeared before them. Welcome, Disciple Yuan. Elder Xian stopped speaking when he noticed Meixiu standing beside him. Who's this? He then asked. This is my friend Meixiu. I hope you don't mind her tagging along with us. Yuan said to him. Your friend? Elder Xian raised his eyebrows. He then said, let's assemble with the others for now. We'll see what the sect master has to say about this. Yuan and Meixiu followed Elder Xian inside the building to meet with Long Yijuan, the high-ranking sect elders as well as the participants. We've been waiting for you, Disciple Yuan. HM? Who's that? Long Yijuan asked the moment he noticed the person with a feminine figure standing next to Yuan. This is my friend Meixiu and I'd like to bring her with me, Yuan said. Your friend? Everyone in the room turned to look at Meixiu with raised eyebrows. You say she's your friend, but she's actually your Dao Companion or something, right? Elder Shan chuckled after a moment of silence. Dao Companion? What's that? Yuan asked in a puzzled voice, forgetting that had heard this term before. You don't know? A Dao Companion is someone who has sworn to follow you for the rest of their lives. Elder Shan explained. And before Yuan could even say anything, Meixiu opened her mouth and said in a calm voice, I guess you can call me his Dao Companion. All of the eyes on her widened with shock and surprise. Yuan's Dao Companion? But they couldn't sense any cultivation from her. In other words, she was immortal. How could a mere mortal be the Dao Companion of a heaven-defying genius like Yuan? Are you really his Dao Companion? You're not joking with us here, right? Elder Shan asked her in a trembling voice since she personally couldn't believe it. Meixiu nodded her head and spoke in a serious voice, I have promised to follow and serve Yuan for the rest of my life. Unbeknownst to the people in the room, Meixiu was talking about their relationship in the real world. Of course, Meixiu herself has never heard of the term Dao Companion until today and misunderstood its meaning after hearing Elder Shan's poor explanation. I see, if you make it sound like that, I guess you can call her my Dao Companion. Yuan also agreed, following Meixiu's misunderstanding. Elder Shan's jaw dropped to the floor after hearing Yuan's confirmation. After a moment of awkward silence, Long Yijuan cleared his throat before speaking, since she's your Dao Companion, I guess she can tag along. Thank you, Sect Master. Yuan nodded, completely oblivious to the misunderstanding that had been created from this situation. Looks like someone had beat you to the punch, Disciple Fei. Elder Shan sighed inwardly, feeling a little pity for Fei Yuyan. Elder Xian also had similar thoughts, but he was thinking about his granddaughter, Xian Wuhan, instead. Anyways, now that everyone is here, we can start making our way to the mystic realm. Long Yijuan said. Disciple Yuan and his Dao Companion, Disciple Gao, Disciple Xue, Elder Xian, Elder Shan, Elder Dai, and myself will be going to the mystic realm while everyone else will remain here to take care of the sect while we're gone. Long Yijuan then turned to look at Elder Bai and said, I'll leave you in charge until we return, Elder Bai. I will protect the sect with my life on the line, Sect Master. Elder Bai nodded with a serious look on his face. Sometime later, everyone that was going to the mystic realm gathered outside. Once they were outside, the sect elders retrieved their flying treasures. Elder Shan summoned her boat and Elder Xian summoned his cloud treasure. Come over here, Disciple Yuan. Elder Shan patted her flying treasure. Yuan didn't say anything and entered the boat, followed by Meixiu. The two of you can ride with me. Elder Xian said to Gao Dongya and Xue Jiye. A few moments later, once everyone was on a flying treasure, they took to the skies. What about the sect master? Yuan asked when he noticed that they'd left him behind. Don't worry about him, look. Elder Shan pointed below them. Yuan turned his head to look at the direction she was pointing, and to his surprise, there was a dragon flying towards them with Long Yijuan and Elder Dai riding on its head. Chapter 296 Flying Treasure. Yuan felt his heart skip a beat when he saw this dragon, and he exclaimed in an excited voice, Is that a real dragon? Even though this dragon wasn't as intimidating as the Great One, it was still an exciting sight to see a real dragon. However, Elder Shan chuckled and said, No, you silly. Do you remember when Elder Xian said there are flying treasures that resemble magical beasts but aren't actually real? That dragon is one of those flying treasures. There's no way anyone would be able to tame a mighty dragon and ride them like a flying treasure. Is that so? But it looks so realistic, Yuan mumbled in a somewhat disappointed voice. You can tell whether it's real or not by its aura. Elder Shan then said. Oh, you're right. I cannot sense any aura coming from it. Yuan realized. Feng Yuxiang's voice suddenly resounded in Yuan's head. Once I am able to transform back to my phoenix form, he'll let the young master ride me as much as he wants. Who needs dragons when you have a phoenix? We're both divine beasts anyway. A smile appeared on Yuan's face and he mumbled, Thank you, Feng Feng. Seconds later, Long Yijuan caught up to them and he said, We're going to take the teleportation device at Bright Needle City to the northern continent, where the mystic realm will take place. It's going to take a couple of hours before we arrive at the city so you can relax until then. Yes, Sect Master. They responded. Sometime later, Elder Shan opened her mouth and spoke, Disciple Yuan, since we have plenty of time, why don't you tell me a little more about you and your Dao Companion here? How'd you two meet? Yuan nodded and said, Her parents worked for my parents, so we've known each other since we were kids. Oh, childhood friends, huh? What a lovely relationship already. Elder Shan chuckled. Then she looked at Meixiu and said, I'm very interested in what kind of woman could captivate someone like Disciple Yuan's heart. Of course, if you don't want to show your face, that's fine as well. Captivate Yuan's heart? Meixiu found Elder Shan's choice of words to be weird, but she didn't think too much about it and nodded her head before removing her crimson mask to show Elder Shan her face. I see. Elder Shan nodded her head as though she realized something, not feeling the slightest shock that Meixiu was a beauty, as it was only natural for someone as talented as Yuan to have a beauty by his side. In fact, it would be weird if Yuan's Dao Companion wasn't a beauty. Anyway, you're certainly one lucky lady becoming his Dao Companion at such a young age. You have no idea how many people will be envious of you in the near future. Elder Shan said. Thank you? Meixiu said in a hesitant voice since she wasn't exactly sure what Elder Shan was talking about. Sometime later Yuan asked, Senior Shan, since you're a spirit master as well, can you use Qi manifestation? Qi manifestation. Only spirit grandmasters can do that. Elder Shan quickly said. Really? But I heard that some spirit masters are able to use Qi manifestation. Elder Shan shook her head and said, maybe if they're a heaven-defying genius or have some unique physique, but under normal circumstances, one cannot use Qi manifestation before they become a spirit grandmaster. Well, I can release my Qi outside to a certain extent, but that's not true Qi manifestation. After a moment of silence she continued, well, if it's you who can use divine sense before reaching spirit master, maybe you can use Qi manifestation before you become a spirit grandmaster. Though you'll probably still need to be around peak spirit master before you can do it. Do you want to try it now? Elder Shan suddenly asked. Really? How do I try? Elder Shan extended her hand and said, now gather your spiritual energy in your hand and imagine it leaving your hand and touching my hand. Yuan nodded and followed her instructions, lifting his hand and gathering his spiritual energy in his hand. He then imagined it leaving his hand almost like had grown a second hand. However, he gave up a moment later when he couldn't release the spiritual energy, and it was like there was an invisible wall preventing him from doing so. Don't worry, if it was so easy, every spirit master would be able to do it. Elder Shan said to him afterward. Yuan nodded and said, I'm going to continue trying. Go ahead. Just don't exhaust yourself. Qi manifestation also requires a lot of energy to maintain. Elder Shan said to him. A few moments later Xiaohua's voice resounded inside his head. Brother Yuan, Qi manifestation is very similar to divine sense. Just practice like you would with divine sense. Now that you mention it, they are very similar. Yuan realized this fact and immediately started trying to release his spiritual energy like he does with divine sense. After an hour of practicing, Yuan finally managed to produce some results. Although it was only very slightly, had managed to extend his spiritual energy a few inches outside his body. When Elder Shan saw this, her eyes widened with shock. Did you just? Elder Shan mumbled in a dazed voice. I think I am getting a hang of it. Yuan nodded. Unbelievable. To think you'd actually managed to release your spiritual energy outside of your body, even if it's just a little, and you just entered Spirit Master. I am a little ashamed of myself now. Elder Shan sighed. Thus, Yuan continued to practice his Qi manifestation for the next few hours until they arrived at Bright Needle City. However, instead of descending outside the city like one normally would, Long Yijuan led them directly inside the city, only descending once they were directly above the teleportation device. Of course, nobody complained when they saw this, and the workers there even welcomed them with bright smiles on their faces. Chapter 297 Mystic Realm Gathering Spot. Welcome to Bright Needle City, seniors from the Dragon Essence Temple. Are you heading to the northern continent for the Mystic Realm? The worker there immediately recognized their identity and even their destination at a glance since he was warned beforehand. Yes, we are. Long Yijuan nodded his head. Sometime later, after paying the worker the bill in spirit stones, Long Yijuan and the others walked through the teleportation device. Are you okay? Yuan asked Meixiu after noticing the discomfort on her face. Yes, just a little dizzy. Meixiu said. That's what happens when mortals use teleportation devices. Don't worry, it's nothing serious and will go away after some time. Elder Shan said to them. A few moments later, they returned to the skies on their flying treasure. We'll arrive at the location in 3 hours. Long Yijuan said to them in the air. By the way, I have been wondering, but how many sects will be participating in the Mystic Realm? Yuan suddenly asked them. Well, it's different every time, but there will always be over 100 sections. Elder Shan said, and she continued, and out of these sects, only 100 of them will enter the sect ranking and become an elite sect, and our Dragon Essence Temple ranked 7th during the last Mystic Realm. If I remember correctly, the slots for each sect are distributed depending on their previous results. How will new sects obtain these spots if they didn't participate previously? Yuan then asked. In the case that a new sect wants to participate in the Mystic Realm, there are a few ways they can obtain a slot, whether it be earning them through important events or even straight up buying them with money, which most of them do. Of course, they can only obtain one slot maximum no matter how they obtained it. Over 100 sects, huh? That's a lot of people. What benefits does being an elite sect bring besides recognition? Yuan then asked. Nothing really. However, recognition and fame are the most important factors for sects since that's what attracts new disciples. Even though the difference between rank 7 and rank May 6th not seem very much in your eyes, it's actually very vast, especially since that might be the deciding factor for someone looking for a new sect. I see. Yuan nodded. About an hour later, their scenery suddenly changed drastically, going from a world rich with trees and greenery to a barren world that barely had any healthy-looking trees, and the further they went, the more desolate the place looked. Where are we? Yuan couldn't help but ask, feeling an ominous feeling coming from this place. This is the Desolate Land, a unique place that takes up 1/3 of the entire northern continent. Elder Shan explained. Did something happen in this place that caused this atmosphere? Yuan continued to ask. Legend has it that a fight had occurred in this place. A fight? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Elder Shan nodded. That's right. Not a war, a fight between two cultivators. Good Lord, 2 people caused this? Is that even possible? Yuan's eyes widened with surprise. Yes, but this happened in the ancient times when there were no restrictions between each of the heavens and immortals were free to roam from heaven to heaven with little to no effort. Perhaps what happened in this place is the reason the mighty heavens placed the restrictions on us in the first place, at least if the legend was true. Is that so? Yuan mumbled before turning to watch the scenery again. Although there was nothing to see, the barren world itself was a spectacle for Yuan, who has never seen such a view before. A few more hours later, Long Yijuan said to them, We're almost there. Prepare yourselves. What is that thing in the distance? Yuan suddenly asked, his voice sounding a little shocked. Meixiu narrowed her eyes and she could see some sort of chasm in the distance, almost like a pair of gates opened slightly. That's the gates to the mystic realm. Quite big, right? Elder Shan chuckled at his reaction. Big is an understatement, Senior Shan. That thing is massive. Is that a treasure? How did they move that thing? Or has it always been there? Yuan expressed his awe. Yes, it's a treasure and no, they cannot move it. Elder Shan explained. A few minutes later, the already large gates appeared even larger, making anyone who was in its presence feel like mere ants. We're here. Long Yijuan said about 10 minutes later. Once they stopped flying in the air, Yuan and everyone else looked down at the area, and to their surprise, there were houses built on the ground along with some camps and a couple of 100 people. We're landing. Long Yijuan said before descending his flying treasure. Yuan and the others could feel numerous gazes suddenly directed in their direction. Ignore them. Elder Xian said. Once they landed, Long Yijuan retrieved his flying treasure which turned into a toy-like object that resembled a dragon. He then pulled out another toy-like object from his spatial ring, which resembled a house this time. Long Yijuan poured his spiritual energy into this toy house before throwing it at the empty lot in front of them. Poof! The palm-sized toy house suddenly expanded until it was the size of a real building, leaving Yuan speechless and Meixiu full of surprise. Quickly go inside. Long Yijuan said to them in a hasty voice, sounding as though they were in immediate danger. Yuan and the other didn't dare to linger and immediately went inside this building that was already filled with decoration. However, while the disciples went inside, Long Yijuan and the sect elders remained standing outside while facing a certain direction, almost like they were waiting for something. And a few seconds later, they could see many figures approaching their direction, all of them emitting powerful auras belonging to spirit masters, with even one of them being a mighty spirit grandmaster. Chapter 298 Jealousy. It's been a while, fellow Taoists. Long Yijuan greeted the guests with a friendly smile on his face while the 3 elders stood behind him with vigilant looks on their faces. Even though these guests all had friendly-looking expressions on their faces, One can never be too careful in the cultivation world where anything can happen, especially when they are competitors. Sect Master Long and Sect Elders, it's been 10 long years since our last meeting. You arrived almost at the last minute this time, Sect Master Long. Did something happen? The Dragon Essence Temple is usually always the first ones to arrive. Don't tell me you almost forgot about the Mystic Realm? These guests were all sect masters and high-ranking elders from the other sects, their intentions unclear. I guess you can say something like that. Long Yijuan responded in a calm voice. By the way, I heard the Dragon Essence Temple managed to win a major bet recently that earned them a few divine-grade treasures. Congratulations. One of them suddenly spoke, mentioning the gamble Long Yijuan made with the other sections. Haha. Thank you. Indeed, my Dragon Essence Temple managed to amass a small fortune due to some minor luck. However, my sect doesn't really need these treasures, so if you would like to buy them, give the Dragon Essence Temple a visit after the Mystic Realm. I will even give you a discount. Long Yijuan said, still with an innocent-looking smile on his face. The sect masters there stared at Long Yijuan with dumbfounded looks on their faces, as they didn't expect him to suddenly start selling the divine-grade treasures had obviously tricked from the others. What a shameless fellow, they all thought. Anyways, I have been wondering for a while now, but I only saw 2 disciples from your group. I thought the Dragon Essence Temple obtained 3 slots from the last Mystic Realm? The Spirit Grandmaster there suddenly asked. The 2 disciples he was referring to were Xue Jiye and Gao Dongya. As for Meixiu, there was no way they'd let a mortal who hasn't even begun to cultivate enter the Mystic Realm. Meanwhile, in his eyes, Yuan, who was emitting the aura of a Spirit Master, it was impossible for someone like that to be a mere disciple. In fact, everybody there thought the same and mistook Yuan as another sect elder from the Dragon Essence Temple. Long Yijuan realized this fact and took advantage of their misunderstanding and said with an arrogant-looking smug face, "The Dragon Essence Temple is so confident this year that we decided to only use 2 out of our 3 slots." What? Are you insane? The sect masters there were shocked speechless by Long Yijuan's claims. So confident in his 2 disciples that they'd be willing to give up an entire spot. Not even the number 1 sect would do such a foolish thing. After all, every additional spot in the Mystic Realm could be the difference between rank 1 and rank 10. Furthermore, they have already done their research on Xue Jiye and Gao Dongya even before they became core disciples. While they are, without doubt, among the top geniuses in the lower heavens, they don't show any heaven-defying talents that would shake the entire world, and the other sects also have similar talents, hence why the sect masters couldn't understand where Long Yijuan's confidence was coming from. After talking with each other for a few more minutes, the people from the other sects left Long Yijuan and the others alone, yet they felt as though something was amiss. Let's go inside as well. Long Yijuan said to the sect elders afterward. Once they were inside the building, Long Yijuan burst out laughing. Ha! These idiots really believed me. They really thought I would give up such a valuable spot over arrogance. Yuan and the other disciples watched him laugh with raised eyebrows. After laughing for some time, Long Yijuan said, "Anyways, you guys can relax until the Mystic Realm starts in 2 days. There are plenty of rooms in this building, so pick whichever one you want. The sect elders and I will keep watch until then." Sometime later, Meixiu said to Yuan, "It's getting late, so I'll log off first to prepare dinner." Yuan nodded. "I'll also log off in a bit. I want to practice Qi manifestation for a little longer." After logging off the game, Meixiu went to prepare dinner. While dinner was cooking, Meixiu went to check on the frozen Jade Zither auction. Time until auction ends, 6 days 10 hours. Current bid, 410 million, 400 million already, huh? At this rate it will definitely reach $500 million. Although the auction has slowed down, Meixiu had no doubt that it would reach at least 500 million. A few minutes later, Meixiu could hear her phone ringing, and to her surprise, it was from her mother. "Hello," Meixiu answered the phone after taking a deep breath. "Meixiu, I have spoken with the Yu family and notified them of your leave." Meifeng's voice resounded a few seconds later. And she continued, "They were definitely not happy about it, especially since you're my daughter and the young lad's personal maid. However, there was nothing they could do about it since you're not bound to a contract like I am, since you're still not old enough to legally sign any contracts. If you had been even a few months late, you would have been stuck with the Yu family for essentially the rest of your life, so consider yourself lucky." "I see. Thank you, mother," Meixiu said to her after hearing this news. "Don't thank me, Meixiu. I didn't do this for you. Everything is for the young master," Meifeng said. After a moment of silence, Meifeng suddenly said, "Meixiu, To tell you the truth, I am very envious of you, who can stay by the young master's side, whilst I can only watch him from a distance. Therefore if you don't treat the young master properly I won't forgive you. Do you hear me? I hear you. Meixiu responded in a somewhat dazed voice. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.